We'll call the meeting to order. We will start with a moment of reflection. And I'll read the Indigenous acknowledgement. So we'd like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards of the land. The municipality is located within the boundary of Treaty 18, region of 1818, which is the traditional land of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, and Wyandot peoples. We do not have any members of the public.
Correct.
Okay. So first item up is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion for approval? Carol, seconded by Chris. That the agenda of April 14th, 2025 be approved and circulated. All in favor? Any known pecuniary interests? Seeing none. Reports to be received as information. So these are the reports that we will be discussing today. The action plan, the 2024 annual report, the community builders program update, the CEO service update, and the finance report. So can I have a motion to receive these as information? Chris, seconded by Graham. All in favor? Previous minutes. So I thought they were very well done, Franz and Jen. Were there any corrections or comments?
And don't
No.
forget about.
Oh, Sean, sorry.
I know it's hard when it's hybrid.
Nothing. I just need to see your hand up too sometimes. All right.
He's
Apologies. It's all right. You did nothing wrong. I forgot you for a moment. So, did I get a mover? Okay, can I have a mover? Sean? Seconded by,
Take your pick.
Chris? All in favor? Great. We have no business arising from the minutes other than the items that are already on the agenda. So we have no deputations, no public input on the agenda. No correspondence?
Correct.
Okay. So now we will move to the action plan. So I want to thank Carol and what's her name again? Joanne. For all the work you've done on the action plan. It really does. It really looks good. So much so that I printed it out. And I'm really hoping that we can make any final tweaks and approve it today. Carol, I did want to speak to your comments because you made them quite regularly throughout your feedback about the person accountable. So Jen and I talked about this. We decided to leave it as, but I thought we would bring it here to have a discussion because Carol's point was that the CEO is ultimately responsible, and do we need to know we need to have other staff's names? And then Jen, you had a point from the session you went to.
Yeah, look, I can see both sides. But the session I attended at OLA, that came up quite a bit in the discussion with the consultant. And I think the main message was when the in collaboration with is included in the document, it just helps with sort of staff buy-in and ownership over the plan to actually see yourself reflected in the annual plan. That's really just the sort of the other side of why it could be included.
And I see that some of the changes that I wanted were done in the latest one. Like at one point you had who's responsible, you had, I think, the curator.
Oh.
manager, and then the
Yes.
CEO was.
Yeah, yeah, there
So
was some
switched that.
tweaking that
Yeah.
needed to be
So with
done.
the tweaking, I mean, I'm okay, I was just thinking, because before you had in there at one point just staff. But that's changed, so
Yeah.
I'm okay keeping the level of the manager in there. It's just
Okay.
when you got down to staff, it almost looked like it was a work plan rather
Right.
than a strategic plan.
Okay,
And I don't mind like the CEO versus the board who's responsible, I think that's important.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I can see what you're saying, there's recognition, and there's not the person's name, it's the position that's in there,
Right.
so. Cause I was just like, with it being public, I was just a little
Mm-hmm.
concerned with, sort of going down to the staff level, but I think he tweaked it and I think
Yeah.
it's okay.
yeah, I think it really is important for buy-in and also accountability so that they know they know that we know that they're involved in.
Yeah, I actually, if I could ask Counselor McKinley for your input on whether or not town staff should actually be listed. I don't see it as the board would be instructing town staff,
You have the word
but
collaboration in it.
yeah, okay,
And I guess that's why I was kind of hesitant putting staff in there, because you're
Right.
not, like, you're not collaborating with staff, you're telling staff. I mean, there is a collaboration and there's that, but they report to you.
Yeah.
Which is different than the relationship you have with someone in the town, and it's a true collaboration and a partnership. So that was my other hesitancy, putting staff in here.
So Sean,
What are your thoughts?
yeah, what are your thoughts? Like, we have manager, facilities and fleet, like on the first page of our action plan.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought that was, I agree that that's the most appropriate terminology, really, because it is just one person. Like
Yeah.
we only have one person managing all these buildings and doing all this stuff, and all this, all the work is done by one person. So the manager of fleet and facilities fits that well. And I agree too, right? It's not about naming names. It's a position, it's a management position.
Yeah, I think as well on the plan, I find what this helps me understand is the important stakeholders, especially because we are a collaboration with the town when it comes to, which departments in the town we actually have to collaborate with. I find that helps understand the complexity of a project and or where we might need, you might need some help, whatever that's.
Yeah, I think it's good to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joanne, you're absolutely right. It's far more complex than we really need to get into, is that because the manager of fleet and facilities reports to the director of finance, so he directs to the treasurer, which is
Yeah, it is complex, but it's still, if we
relative.
have an initiative that we need to move forward, knowing that the manager of fleet has to have a say in it, certainly helps us understand. That's, at the highest level in terms of the department. That's all.
And
Now, what about
to
the
that-
bottom?
to that point, Joanne, is that he's got a direct tie to the treasurer of the town, right? So the financial backing or the financial knowledge is there too. So it's all, I think it's great the way it is. It was it's not descriptive. I guess, how's the right way? It's descriptive enough not to be too prescriptive. I know that's a bit of a word salad, sorry. But no, I
Now,
think it's
what
great.
about then, taking the museum curator name out, then if we're having a column that's true collaboration rather than a delegation?
The museum curator aspect?
Yeah, because that's what the CEO is gonna delegate to the museum curator.
Well,
Well,
not really.
my opinion would be that the museum curator is there again. That's another position of management and it's a separate building.
Yeah.
But it reports to the CEO. That's my
Yeah.
issue. I mean, no, that's my point. I mean, it's not really an issue. I mean, if we decide to leave it, we can leave it in, but it's more than collaboration.
so
Yeah,
in
it's-
collaboration could just be the people who don't actually work for.
Well, that's what I
The
suggested. in my
organization.
comments, it was
Oh, okay.
Outside, that's what I meant by it being outside people, because the museum curator, you work in a collaborative fashion, but you do delegate work to them.
Yeah, but Jen was also like just using that as an example. You were part of it. You weren't really delegating. You were doing it with her.
But she reports to you and ultimately you're responsible for it. So however you
Yeah.
delegate work, at the end of the day, you have that hierarchy. That's all.
Yes. I still do feel that there might be more, sort of what I said at the beginning, when people see themselves
Yeah.
in it, there's more buy-in, I
And
guess,
the-
in a sense, but
The fact that she sees it's in like, I'm always looking for opportunities to bring up the people that are reporting to me. In this case, it's to you.
I think the fact that many people don't know there is such a thing as a museum curator. To me, on these, just back to the departments in a way, is just from a, totally understand where you're
Maybe what
coming
you
from.
do is you do,
Or
Blue Mountain Public Library, like museum curator or something. Because people who may not be aware of it, they may not know that the museum curator is part of the
Part of
library
it.
staff.
Either that or anybody, or if they have a direct, or museum curator should go under responsible.
Yes, you could do
CEO
that.
CEO
because
slash
CEO
museum
underneath the
coordinator.
bracket,
Or sorry,
museum curator, you could do that.
How many people are gonna see this?
I don't know. It's a really good point.
I'm good with the way it is for now. I
Yeah.
think we're almost there. Let's,
They're key
Yeah.
people that can be
Yeah.
identified and
Yeah.
contribute, you know, and for us, if something were to happen to Jennifer, we know who to go to,
exactly.
so. I don't see. a
You just have to keep in mind what the purpose of the action, sort of strategic
Right.
action plan is versus a work plan. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, like I said, now that you've got like it, but so my next question would be complete space utilization study for Ellie Short. So that's just you, you're not giving that to a manager internally?
yes.
Okay.
And actually,
I imagine there'll be some
there'll be a
sort of
lot of,
consultation, but that would be something that I would lead. Like I would put
Okay.
together the RFP, I would,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
She's the one interacting with the manager of fleets, not
Yes.
not the staff.
Yeah.
So.
and we're gonna talk about the space utilization study today. That's on the agenda, right?
Okay, so yeah, no, I'm okay with, like, sort of said my point. If it's,
Okay.
it's not a mountain, I'm gonna go.
Good.
it'll be recorded in the minutes, though.
And remind me again why the yellow highlights, were those new ones that you put in,
Those were,
or Carol?
yeah,
No.
they're the ones that I put in from our meeting, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
highlight them, just to make sure another set of eyes looked and made sure I had the right ones.
Okay, so I looked, but I didn't take out the yellow because I wasn't sure who put it there and what I was if I was supposed to be doing anything with it.
Yeah.
So these are new since the last one then, or
Yeah, so,
reworded?
so as we had the collaboration session and everybody, these are
Yeah.
what we all agreed to, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's good.
I just-
all right. So was there any tweaking that needs to happen?
I don't think so. I would like to suggest, if I can just speak to your other point, Carol, comments about putting in specific numbers and specific goals. I think as a follow-up, we're going to develop that kind of reporting part. So I would agree that we should put actual numbers in. We don't know what they are yet.
Right, okay,
So,
that's fair.
so
That's
these
fair.
are kind of a hold for.
Yeah, yeah,
There will be a goal, it's just, we know it's a number. or-
yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
I see we're already behind on the key messages to support communication.
Okay, so I haven't, are we,
Okay,
I was,
anything else on the structure
Yeah.
of this?
okay. keep
Yeah.
going.
so
Yeah.
I'm just looking under key result, the strength and awareness and support Blue Mountain Rural Community.
Wait,
and,
which pillar?
Where are we?
Empowering services.
Okay, key result, oh yeah, okay.
We have town staff in there. Under in collaboration with,
So remove.
I think we just remove town staff. Who in the town are you dealing with? Are you dealing with the manager in there? Like, we don't want to lose that they were collaborating with the town, but town staff to me seems very generic.
So it would be this,
Well, we've got two town staff already there, and so is.
Those are library staff. I would say though, the person that would make the most sense to list would be, the manager of communications.
Okay,
I can't remember Alan's full title, but
Mhm.
I can make that change. I think that,
Okay, that's good.
and actually, I will do that right in here.
You're right, Jennifer. Alan Gibbons is the manager of communications.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
and then if we go to strength and awareness and support, so that's under that, still empowering services.
yeah,
We had the art walk in there before.
yeah, we talked about not doing the art walk.
Yeah.
We still don't know the future of the Arts Walk. There have been many meetings that have happened since, and I know that there are 2 community groups interested in taking over. And Councillor McKinley, you know a bit about this. I'll say what I know, and I think if you have anything to correct me if I'm wrong or add to it. But the Craigleith, Clarksburg community group or Clarksburg Village Association, is that the, yes, Clarksburg Village Association, I believe, wants to take the lead. They're very ambitious about hosting it this year with a bit of support from the BIA. And then I believe the BIA has committed to be an official sort of partner for next year. I don't have any actual updates on whether or not it's happening this year. I have heard it might happen the Saturday after Canada Day, which is the original sort of the date that we had for the first 2 years. Again, I don't have any confirmation on that date. Do you, Councillor McKinnon?
I can paint the picture a little more in the lines there for you. Yes, you're right. So the Clarksburg Village Association is they're gonna shoulder the load to be the lead on the art walk this year. The BIA, we're going to offer, because I'm on the BIA, so I can give this direct knowledge. The BIA, we're going to assist them as a partner with in-kind contributions and whatever we can do, and for marketing and all that stuff too. The weekend, so the weekend following Canada Day is literally like 3 days after Canada Day, since Canada Day is on a Tuesday. They decided that that's going to be a little too close and a little too tight for everybody and everything. So it's going to be the weekend after that, or it's going to be the second or third weekend of July. And they're just trying to firm up their rain contingency with Marsh Street Center as well. So it's happening. Everybody, there's no arguing or there's no disputing the business that gets brought to town and just the foot traffic, and that everybody, there's a lot of people that are coming here specifically for that event. So we're going to keep it going, and that gives the BIA, a little more time to prepare for next year to take the lead on it. So it's happening. It might be scaled down a little bit from how we were doing it, like how library was doing it, but it's still happening. So it's a good news story, really. I hope that helps.
Does the library want to play any role in helping with the transition?
We have. So Franz
Big
had
time.
put together a very detailed report, outlining all of the conversations we had with the ACC and with the board about the challenges and and our intention from the beginning was we knew that we couldn't sustain the event on our own. We wanted community groups to take it over. And so they have all of that information. And I think Franz has also forwarded sort of any additional info about, marketing or who you need to contact for specific things. We had a meeting with both groups and membership from the ACC. Basically, I said if they want us to be a stop along the way, we may be able to organize a children's activity, but at the very least, we can be the public facility that people can come to for washrooms. We'll have an art opening regardless for our summer art show, so that could be again, sort of the stop along the way, but we're definitely not, we were very clear about not having an active role in planning, or funding the event. We didn't budget for the event. So they're aware of that. But any material too that they want to recycle, we've offered to them. Some of our signs had the year on it, so it's not like they could reuse that, but we've said, you know, you want the logo, you want the branding, it's all yours. So it's not like they're starting from nothing. But yeah, we're definitely taking a really big step back in terms
So
of.
that's great, that's still gonna happen,
Yeah.
that's really, but that's what we were hoping was gonna happen.
Exactly.
We would fill that
Yeah.
gap in. So they did, so that was good.
That's really
Really,
good.
that's really great.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
Yay.
Plus, because Jen and I were going over this, the develop annual exhibition schedule and gallery events. So the goal is, of course, the monthly, but also one art event per quarter. And that is, yeah,
It fits really nicely with the structure we already have on the committee, or sorry, the council. And I really liked, it wasn't me that actually put this in here. I don't know if it was Carol or Joanne, but I think it's great because it's being inclusive of the gallery, it's realistic. And one of the things Franz and I have been working on a lot over the last, I would say 6 months is, actually creating more of a structure for the ACC. We did just recently onboard 2 new members, so you know, it was largely led by Franz, but we developed, you know, an entire onboarding process for these members. We're sort of creating a more formalized guideline for the programs that the ACC are running so that they really understand their focus, they understand their budget, that sort of thing. And again, our really big goal with the gallery is to let people know that there actually is a gallery in this building. So
can I make one minor comment? We shouldn't have the acronym there, we should spell it.
okay,
So my last comment on the action plan
yeah,
is my stickling point about business continuity plan.
Oh, yes.
oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
we were still talking about that too. So wait, which one is that?
It's
That's
the very
last one.
Organizational excellence. Okay. So when we talked about this, when Jen and I were talking about this, looking at your comment, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, that this is something that would be staff. You're gonna report to us that you have one. The financial piece is a different
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
going to be involved in,
Yeah.
yeah.
So my question here is, and what were you guys getting at with this? Was this the financial, or is this to put together a subcommittee under the board to talk about financial strategy?
No, this was probably, it was cyber, right, Jan? That would be or it could be a disaster.
or
Yeah, so it is a business continuity plan,
Yeah.
like it would be under emergency management.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be, so you take out the working group then, and that would be something the CEO would bring to us.
Yes, and I think the working group comment should have gone, so the second item there, the develop multi-year financial projections and plan.
Okay.
I believe that's where the working group.
Okay, that
comment
would
should
make more
go.
sense.
Yes, I think that's what happened.
Oh,
Because we talked about doing something at the last board meeting, and putting together a little group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the hiccup and the confusion is the working group is for the financial projections and reserves, essentially.
okay. That makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you, Julie?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I
I've
think that's what we talked
modified.
about, didn't we?
Yeah, I have a little more clarity now though. And I don't believe
So this is just a-
the live version of what I'm working on is on my screen, so let me I just want to make sure, Counselor McKinley can also see what I'm doing here. Okay, so and then everyone else will be able to see it as well. Just go and then, yes.
So you saying the working group comment would go up here?
Yeah, so this I think just becomes develop a business continuity plan.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
was doing that, and then under the develop the multi-year financial, where the
Release
comment
that.
is that will,
Yeah,
yeah.
that goes up.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay.
Okay, so establish a working group to develop multi-year.
I would just put it up under the second,
Yeah, so,
just
Right?
yeah, see
cut and
the,
paste that.
no, the bottom right corner, where it says working, yeah,
Ah.
that goes up to the comments beside the financial
This goes up to the second.
projection.
Yeah,
That's what that is for.
I
Yeah.
don't know if we really need any resources.
And then,
Do we need any resources?
we don't know. I think that was the point, was we have to think about how, how to go about this. Yeah. So.
And then I think you can just go with the original wording that you had on the
Yeah.
left-hand side.
The initiative is just develop a multi-year. We don't need to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, true.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
And now, do you have a business continuity plan now?
Yes, like it's, I was actually working a bit on it yesterday. It was never, I don't think it was ever approved.
Okay,
But there's something I'm working with, and then I had a few other library CEOs send me theirs, so I'm sort of just,
so I just wondering if you
Like
can say update or something, the business continuity plan, rather than, or, I mean, I'm fine with it, it just implies you don't have one when you say develop.
yeah, and I don't, like, my understanding based off the records I was looking at, I don't think it ever came to the board
But we know the town doesn't have a cybersecurity
policy. Or,
strategy.
yes, that's
Right,
correct.
Sean, is that true? It's kind of horrifying
Well,
to think that that's the case.
it's in
Sorry, what was
development.
the question?
Well, there's been libraries, and I'm sure other municipalities, cyber attacks. And I had asked Jen a couple months ago, did the town have a plan? And she said, no. No cybersecurity,
Well, not that she's aware of.
not
I
that
think
you're
They-
aware.
it's part-
I did ask, the manager of IT, and he said that they were working on one, but that one didn't currently exist, so,
Like they were working,
I'm just.
sorry, they were working on a management plan, you mean?
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
in the event of, what do you do?
Held for ransom, like
Or
what do you
ransom
do?
or whatever, yeah. So
Yeah,
as far as my knowledge goes on that, because I've had that conversation with IT before, it's basically, I know it sounds terrible, but no one is safe. So
No one is safe.
no one is safe from that. Like there is security, like the networks
Yeah.
are secured,
Oh, yeah.
and it's not, it's not as if there's nothing in place. But
yeah,
as per an actual management plan of what to do if this happens and all that, then
Yeah,
that's where there is, they're working on having a contingency. So yeah, I know it's not great news, but it's better than it sounds. I don't know if that sounds any better, but there's still security.
I think the other thing
yeah,
too is, in our case, like IT is at town hall, if there was some disaster, like they could
Yeah.
easily, like their
To
staff
be
are
there
there.
in minutes.
Yes, where for the library, we have a very interesting relationship in terms of IT because of what they do and don't do. There's some staff here that do a little bit of IT, there's town staff that do IT, so if anything, for us not to have a plan
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
is not good.
yeah.
I think
So-
it's
Also,
important.
too, I
Sorry.
think what's worth mentioning, Jennifer, is that, that is a great relationship to have, because if library staff weren't able to kind of custom tailor to what the suits the needs of the library, it would be pretty restrictive.
Yes. And there are
So let's
certain things
make that
too that
clear,
we
yeah.
can't, like, Elisa, for instance, she may know what to do, but she doesn't necessarily have access to, I don't know, say the back end of Office 365 to do what needs to be done, or it would have to be us liaising with town IT. So if anything, whatever I do put together, will have to be in consultation with the manager of IT just to make sure, because I don't know, is it this person over there that does that? Or like, who do I contact after hours? So there's only so much I can do too.
So you're just making the case that you really need it.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
We really need
Yes.
one, yeah.
Because also too, it's only within recent days or recent history that IT has tightened up on council security as well for our technology. Like some of my colleagues, as you all know, aren't always in the country. So a lot of them had connectivity issues within the last 2 months because without requesting clearance from the clerk's office, they had no connectivity. They had no cell phone and they had no laptop services while they were outside of the country.
Oh.
Yeah. So there are measures being taken. But
Yeah,
anyway, just I
Okay.
hope that helps.
that's good.
I just had a question on this. This is not just, my understanding was, this is, cyber, and I'll call natural disasters.
Yes, yeah.
It's not just.
No, it's business
Right.
continuity under
Business
various
continuity
whole
under
money town,
yeah.
Okay, okay.
I haven't decided yet whether this should be a separate policy, but even, should something happen to a senior manager, like what if the CEO dies, then what?
That's
We
part
used
of-
to always say get hit by a bus.
Yeah, exactly. That's also part of
Yeah.
business continuity and
Yeah.
redundancy and processes and stuff. Yeah.
So can I make one?
Okay, wait.
Really little point?
Yeah,
Just you have art committee. Is it the art council committee? I think it's under empowering services, key result number 1. Yeah, just at the bottom there, you have art committee, museum curator, art committee.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
okay, so it looks like, were there any other comments about the action plan?
Just, I think it's looking really good.
It
Yeah, I
is.
agree.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see we're almost done.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Before it, is approved, I was hoping that we could go through, just the goal section, just for consistency.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna remove. So the first one that I was thinking of here actually is when we were talking about the manager of fleet and facilities draft. So my only caution here, I'm hesitant to put by Q3 only because, is it? Well,
Yeah, that's
I don't
It's
really
not
have.
under our control.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. So for me to have the information to any relevant information that perhaps Phil may need by Q3, absolutely. But in terms of the one thing with all of Phil's projects is the timelines are so hard to nail down. Like, yes, the goal is to have the building condition studies completed by the end of this year. Will that happen? I don't know for sure. And I'm really hesitant to put by Q3.
So why don't you just put Q4
Provide update by Q3.
Or
update? Yeah,
this initiative is support completion. So I think what I'm hearing you're saying is the goal is to ensure that all library related information is received by the manager of fleet and facilities on time. So I don't know, I'm just trying to think through like what, to the point about like, what are we in control of? And we're in control of the information we can provide or the access we can provide. Because
Yeah.
again, no matter what date we put on it, we are beholden to
So-
his schedule.
should we
So-
even have this here if it's not in our control?
Hmm.
Like, how did it get on there? Cause I want to.
Because it's part of our space initiative.
Well, I know, so we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
talk about,
Okay.
this utilization study, which I think is gonna be helpful.
Hmm.
I,
Maybe
Like,
the
it might
goal is,
escalate
maybe
then.
the goal is just status of report by Q3. So we want, like, by Q3, we would like to hear from you where he is in the.
yeah,
In
okay.
that study, because that will help us with our planning, is if he hasn't been able to complete all the elements of the building conditions for all of our buildings.
and that's what Sean just said, he said,
Yeah,
update by Q3.
so it's really just an update,
Update,
like Sean said.
yeah, and so we're leaving it there.
Yeah.
Even though it's not really within our control because of its importance
Yeah.
to others.
Yeah, it's a key
Yeah,
factor in decisions.
yeah.
I wonder then, I'm just thinking too about the results of the accessibility audit. And Phil and I are working together on trying to get an RFP out for a contractor to get, 5 of those items or
Yeah,
however we can with the
definitely.
budget he
Yeah.
has finished. So I'm just wondering if there's a way maybe to combine. It's kind of related.
I would just leave it as its own thing. It's
Okay.
its own
Yeah, for now.
thing because the accessibility audit has specific actions against it. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, was there another one you wanted to? You can get rid of by end of, just, it's just by Q3, yeah, we caught some of those.
Okay.
It's assumed by the end of.
It's, I was just gonna say that, for the government, it's always
it's all the end of.
March
It's still
31st.
Q3.
We have till fall, so that's December 22nd.
Um, should it just be quarterly versus quarterly connections?
Well, yeah,
That quarter was fine.
and you do have an update on Martha.
I do. I'm thinking of removing in collaboration with town staff because it's kind of listed already in,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. This one.
Wait, we don't have a date though.
Actively participate.
Is that the one you're talking about? The May date?
I was gonna say, the problem is we still don't have a.
It's a
final
tentative date
right
that
now.
I'll share with the board for the initial final report, but there's going to be another meeting where a decision is being made. I don't know what that will
Okay.
be.
Or just put maybe date to be TBD?
Mm.
I imagine, I think it would be safe to say by Q4.
I would hope so.
Yeah, by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Okay, so put like,
It's a goal.
yeah,
okay. This as well, I think it would be safer to put Q4.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then if we get it in Q3, that's priority.
Yes, absolutely.
It's an overachieve.
And this formal presentation is when we're ready to go back to talk about expansion,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Okay.
So as an example, these numbers they just need validation, I guess, through whoever it is who does social, that's fair.
You can get rid of the by Q3 and under the key initiative, because you've got it.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, by Q3.
Okay. I'm just I think a 10% increase could be realistic, but I'm not.
That's what I'm saying, I
That's
think,
right.
and I'm happy to sit down, with them and say, okay, because I don't have a perception of what's
Yeah,
already there, where growth is gonna have to sit down, it'd be like a 15-minute quick conversation to decide what's
Yeah,
realistic.
don't worry about it.
Okay, it's,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
I know.
you sort of said the goal right now in terms of numbers are placeholders.
yeah, so if you want to just put an X%, maybe for more to identify that we haven't nailed the number, it's fine.
Or can I put increase? And
Sure.
just,
And then we'll put a number there when we figure out what's a realistic
Mhm.
number.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then is it the same thing with the 2% per month at the bottom? Yeah,
No, it's gonna be 2%.
Leave that.
Those
there.
are industry standards and.
Oh, okay.
Is that it is per month?
Growth is, there's a lot in and out of it. If you want, it is per month. You know what? If you want to put it as a question mark, that's fine. We can have the conversation.
No,
But
don't
it's
put a
a-
question mark. It just
it's a
looks
set,
like
yeah,
an
I mean, when you
incomplete-
go into the, it's because you have drop off and growth and
Right.
how it's actually tracked. You can't, it's not cumulative. Sorry, that's my,
Okay.
yeah.
what was not cumulative?
Just how the sites track the information, right? So
Yeah. Which I
Are there
know
any
nothing
others
about.
you wanted to?
it's a
Um,
math thing.
I think these are good. Reports that are aligned. Oh, what is this one? Develop programs, service tracking. Setting routines.
This may be a case where there already are, there is a tracking already. I think this comes back to what we're gonna talk about is in terms of the overall tracking, how we'd like to see the numbers on
Yeah,
a
so
quarterly
don't,
basis. So
Okay.
it's not to suggest
I
that
think-
nothing exists. Just
this is your area of expertise too.
I mean, maybe what you can say in the minutes, Jen, just so that it alleviates me,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
to say, action plan approved with review of specific goals based on recommendations from a working group or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
If that makes you feel better that these are more
Yeah.
tentative than anything.
Mhm.
That does,
I
yeah.
like that.
Okay, so we need to, before we do the motion, then we should, revise it. So approve the 2025 action plan as amended. The board recognizes that some of the goals,
Yeah.
Are currently placeholders until, confirmed by a working group.
Did you get that, Franz?
I did, thank you.
all right, so let's call the motion then. May I have a mover that the motion is that the board approve the 2025 action plan as amended. And,
Sean put his hand up too.
oh, Sean and Carol, okay, and all in favor? Okay, and that motion was the one that we recognize that some of the goals are placeholders that Sean got. Wonderful.
Good.
Good, okay, so now we're going into community hubs, Pillar, and over to you, Jen.
Okay. So the update that I have, oh shoot, I just opened at least my screen isn't being shared here. So we do have a tentative date for the joint council meeting where the final report of the MRFA will be presented. And that tentative meeting is 5 PM on just triple checking here, I believe it's May 15th. Sorry, Wednesday, May 14th at 5 PM. I'll forward the invitation to everyone. And so if all goes well, that meeting, again, the report will just be received as information. There are no decisions that will be made at that meeting. And my understanding is after it's been received at that meeting, both councils separately will sort of deliberate and have a discussion and make a decision on how they want to move forward.
And we're just a party to it. We don't have a meeting to discuss how we want to, like, that has to happen first, Collingwood and,
Yes,
okay.
Did you say they're gonna do it individually? Or
the
together?
first meeting where everyone receives it as information and sees it for the first time will be together in a joint meeting, May 14th, 5 PM. Then there has to be a second meeting separately.
Right, okay.
And that hasn't been determined yet. In terms of how the board will interact with council, we won't know just yet. I think we'll probably want to, have a discussion after that joint council meeting. Because when there is a council meeting where they're going to make a decision, we may, pending the results, we may want to make a deputation. We may want to filter any sort of comments or questions through Councillor McKinley. At this point, I don't know, and we still have to talk to clerks because the way that Collingwood Public Libraries Board interacts with council is a little bit different than ours. So it'll just be a matter of, like, my understanding is if council were to ask the library CEO or a member of the board a question, obviously they're addressing you and you were able to, but to just, you know, like raise your hand and ask council a question procedurally, that's a little strange. So we haven't quite figured that part out, but I think after sort of that joint meeting, we'll sort of have to determine how we want to move forward.
Yeah, so that's the one, because I'm away, and Joanne, you are back on the 13th. Do not tell me.
I am, yeah,
14,
I'll have been back for
But it
24
doesn't
hours.
sound like anything's gonna happen on.
No,
the
it's just the
14th.
information.
Just
Yeah,
information.
but
Yeah,
still,
No,
it's
I've
good
got
to
it
hear
back
it from
here,
the,
yeah.
So you would already know what's in this report, right?
Yes.
So is there any need for us to have comments to council, not on the 14th, but whenever they are prepared to discuss it?
Likely, I
would
would
go
think.
for it.
oh, you know what's in the report?
yes.
Oh,
Was there anything further from offered by the town of Collingwood why they held on to it so long? And that's why we haven't had it back, is because they wouldn't relinquish it?
All I can really say is the most recent draft that I've seen is better, much better than what we received. I think it was the right before Christmas, and we were sort of rushing, hoping to stay on time, get it done in January. And I think some of the holdup too was trying to figure out what their steering committee. So they want a steering committee where our council did. There was just a lot of back and forth. And the most recent version I've seen too, there might be a tiny bit of tweaking before it does go to that May meeting. But I've submitted all of my feedback from the library's side of things. So I'm happy with where it is right now from the library's perspective.
and it wasn't appropriate that it come to us?
Not yet. It has to go.
Yeah. Okay,
It has to go to council.
no, but when you gave feedback,
Yeah, because that was like the staff level.
you were at,
Yeah,
you
and that
gave
doesn't.
feedback as part of the steering committee?
Yes.
Yes, not
Yeah.
as per se, the library board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although, with that said, a lot of the feedback that I did give on the report was consistent with the direction I've been given by the board, the priorities of the board. You know, and the consultants were provided with all of the,
Yeah,
you know, the studies and data that we've been working with. So they have everything that they needed to put the report together, in my opinion.
okay,
And there was quite a bit of advocacy between both myself and the Collingwood Public Library CEO too. We felt that our feedback was accurately reflected.
oh, good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But it's a she, isn't it? Is an ally.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. Which is really what we wanted by having you on the steering committee, right? So we don't.
Well, it's
hear
interesting because this word about this faulty use recreational thing is certainly, I was in Collingwood yesterday afternoon and at the Y and I heard all about it
Yeah.
there. So it's
Well,
everywhere.
they think there's gonna be something built, people think.
Probably not in my lifetime, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to swim in that pool, that's why I gotta come.
well, I can tell you there was nobody in the Y pool.
Really?
So it's not well used.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll go to that
Alright.
meeting, so we'll attend either in person or online, whatever formats are. Hear the report and then decide, and you'll help us understand if there is sort of the best opportunity for follow-up directly with council with our questions or
Yeah.
concerns, because obviously then our council has to have their applications.
Yeah.
So actually, that's good timing for our next board meeting.
Mhm.
That we could have it as an agenda item on the next board meeting to decide.
Yep.
What our action is.
Yeah.
Good point.
I'll be really, I'm looking forward to the meeting because like obviously I've seen this thing 10 million versions of it, right? So there's probably different, I'm interested to hear all the different perspectives,
Mhm.
and to see how it's received, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it on tape when I get back. Okay, so moving on to the Youth Climate Action Fund. I think you gave, didn't you? It's in your report too.
Yep, I wanted to give, well, I'll give an update on, so, the sustainability coordinator and I, Nick, we've been working really closely on this project. And we led a civic engagement workshop at the Meaford High School. We had over 50 students and young leaders too, so members of, like, they were handpicked by the teachers to attend this workshop. We had a keynote speaker. We worked through the application process, that sort of thing. The same day, Megan Miles, who has a similar position with the county, she led a workshop at the Owen Sound High School. And then since we've met as a committee to evaluate the first round of applications. And we do have someone who participated last year who's now sitting on the project selection committee, who is a youth. He's in grade 12. His name is Jaden. Amazing. So we've gone through the applications and we've received, all I can say at this point is we've received more than the first round, which was really exciting given how much more we've actually been able to interact with the students this time around, where the first time, it was a lot of administrative things that you had to figure out. So, all in all, my update is just that project's going very well. And it has been really great for the library to connect with both town staff, counselors, county staff, and youth. That was the first time I actually, as the library CEO, went into the high school and got to directly lead and interact with students. So it was a really great experience for me too.
That's wonderful.
That's
Kudos.
great, yeah,
I love to hear the younger.
yeah, engaged and,
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually huge. Like 50 is huge.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
there was even, like obviously when you do Q&A with teens, sometimes it can be super awkward because nobody wants to speak. But I think even just the dynamic was right between everybody. And we had one of the students, coincidentally, the night before, she had done a delegation at Grey Highlands Council. Someone in high school.
Smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so actually, Counselor McKinley, I was asking her a bunch of questions about her experience and, like, well, what time was it? And, was there any food? And like, we were talking about sort of all the barriers to youth participation, I guess, at the council level. And so the mayor did tune in virtually at one point and gave, a bit of an inspirational speech to the kids. And then we shared some of that feedback with her too. So there was a little bit of back and forth between
that's cool.
council and students as well. So
Good job. Okay, moving along, Little Free Library.
yes. Did you want to start this one off, McKinley, or do you want me to?
You can go. You can start it off. You're the CEO. I'm just gonna provide some backfill.
Well, the reason I think though this was on the agenda is Councillor McKinley had received feedback from a community member in Ravenna about the location of the library and also maybe the maintenance of the pantry in the winter. And so the idea had been thrown out there to actually move the location to where the mailboxes are, just so that it's actually easier for town staff to do any sort of winter maintenance to access the library location. And so that's something that I can sort of take offline and talk to community services about. But otherwise, that discussion that Councillor McKinley and I had opened up another discussion with staff. And we did do a bit of an evaluation of all locations. And so what was reported to me was that they're actually being very well utilized. Children's books are flying off the shelves, specifically at Morrow Park. I think Emma mentioned she went and checked on it, refilled it, went the next morning, and all of the children's books were
Where's
gone.
Morrow Park?
It's just across from the arena.
Yeah.
It's where the There's
Where
a
they
dog
have
park there too.
Oh,
There's a
right,
dog
right,
park.
The
yeah.
skate
Yeah.
park.
Skate
and-
park, yeah.
The skate
and the
park, yeah.
baseball
Oh, that
diamond.
one.
It makes sense. I mean, that's certainly
Yeah,
a hub and right around the corner from the huge, the neighborhood area that has all the kids.
yeah. The pantry items, things like toilet paper, like actual like necessity, like toilet paper, I think, and toothpaste. So BVO has been managing the pantry side of things, not the library. It's part of the partnership. But at the management level, we did talk about having more of a regular sort of check-in from library staff on the locations. And then a larger discussion about some of the locations themselves, like should we have one outside of Ellie Shore? I don't know. Is it being used? Yes. But the partners also mentioned they had interest in expanding the program, so adding new locations. At this time, we don't know if that's even possible in terms of whether the students can build them. So it's kind of to be determined, but at the very least, it has been a very successful initiative.
So do you have like a time frame that you give us an update on an evaluation of the locations and cost on new locations? Because I'd hate to see this momentum,
Yeah.
waver.
So I would say, well, when did we launch? We launched in July of last year. So I could come back
September.
in September. Yeah, I was gonna say like early fall. Yeah, okay, I can, Franz, if you could capture in the minutes, I will do a follow-up report in September on Little Free Libraries.
And with some recommendations going forward.
With
Not that the board is making.
Yep.
Deciding recommendations, but it would be neat to see sort of what
Yeah.
your thoughts are and what BVO's thoughts are.
Yeah,
Which, of your managers is responsible for?
that would be the manager of community engagement. Yes,
So does the library staff member check it every day?
not every day, no.
And what about BVO? How often do they check it?
I don't know the answer to that, because it is volunteer, led. I can ask to see. I would say though, our staff at minimum are checking at least once a month.
Okay.
But the one thing I will say about the Little Free Libraries is we also did notice community members are, like, it is reciprocal. So people are taking things and putting other things in, which was the intention to begin with. We have tons of books to put in these Little Free Libraries, but people are,
And kids' books, you have tons of?
for the most part, yeah,
Good.
I would say. And, I mean, the odd time we find some strange things in there.
So what about
but-
the pantry items? I know that's not your family dealing with, but are they being turned over to or taken as you, and used? Okay,
Yes.
so both aspects are.
Yes. And there are some stats, I believe, in the 2024 annual report. And then I did bring, a report to the board, I think in December, that mentions how many pounds of food roughly have been distributed. I just can't remember what the number is, but,
Yeah.
but we do have that information and we're tracking it.
Great work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Okay, extension of, depot hours.
So Alessia and I had a conversation recently. This is just really an FYI to the board. We did receive funding for a 26-week internship again at the museum. Last year, it ended up going internally, but that's not going to be the case this year. So we actually will have an additional staff member. And we do have a full staff complement again at the museum, which is great. So with that said, they do notice after the May long weekend, when we extend our hours, there's a lot of people that come in the summer before we open at noon, and then they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, you tell them to come back and they never do.
No,
So without any budget impact, we're going to pilot opening at 11 to see how it goes and see if there's any more traffic in the building, and then maybe reevaluate if that's something we can do permanently. But we will be piloting sort of that extra extension of hours after the May long weekend.
And was it open till 11 to like 4?
5.
5.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item, so we've been talking, me in particular, I think, about this utilization study for a while. And, I'd asked Jen to reach out to, the library listserv. And the only one we got back was the Hamilton's one, and there's, some aspects that really aren't relevant. They sound like they're a very large, facility. Yeah. But what I really did like was what they did in the appendices. Well, I like the summary too, because it talked about the fact that they had a facilities master plan, which made me pause for a bit because hospitals have master plans. I think any large, public buildings, they have to have master plans. We do not have master plans in the Blue Mountains, so that part isn't relevant, but, I liked the fact that they talked about some of the reconfiguring they had done, the redesigning, relocating, that kind of thing. And then what I particularly liked was the, method, some of the appendices, so the SWOT analysis and the brainstorming, so those are later on in the document. So, has everybody done the SWOT analysis? Done to death, but I like that this was done with staff, so it's the strength, looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And then I particularly like then the next, appendix where they talked about the brainstorming. So it came out of this, the SWOT analysis, so it makes sense from a methodology, you have this would be, I would see something done with staff, and a consultant, to, get a good sense of, where people think we are at, and then to brainstorm, what about some possibilities? So it's interesting that Colliers seems to do a lot of these things. So the only piece, so I've asked Jen to maybe start to work on an RFP. But I think it should be, we probably need, and I'd be happy to work with you on some of the wording, but just in terms of adding in a bit of a utilization overlay, like how, to which spaces are used, overused, and underused here, and then what might we be able to do with.
Yeah, we don't have 5 floors or.
Well, but we have a plant, very large plant at the back, right? There's a lot of space that isn't, hugely used, and you mentioned that some libraries look at their collections size too?
Yeah, that I would be interested, and then there's, in the same guidelines where they recommend like the square footage for.
Aruplo?
Yeah, the Aruplo guidelines, how much space do you need for your population sort of thing? There's something in there too for how big your collection should be. So I have to look into that a little bit. But there are other libraries too who have, maybe it doesn't align specifically with the Aruplo guidelines, but they have a much smaller collection and more community space. But I guess it would also depend on the uniqueness of your community and what are people actually, what do they value more? Do they use the space more versus the physical collection? I think with our annual report, what came out in that report was, yes, the print collection is well used in the town of the Blue Mountains. Whether or not it needs to be as large as it is, I would have to look into that.
Or maybe we could get some help.
Yeah.
Like what is best practice now? And how are people adopting digital? Like I see our ebooks continue to grow and things like that. Not that I'm an ebook user, so.
I think if I can suggest, I think the most important aspect to this is the defining what we're trying to solve. And,
Yeah.
and us as a team, I guess it comes down to writing the RFP.
Yeah.
So what is it we're looking for? Whether it is identifying those problem areas or overall, so we have all the information from the gap analysis, we know what the priorities are, we've done the accessibility. So sort of identifying those here's, what we need the outcome to be is the right sized, circulation, a right sized, available youth space, whatever they are, but just sort of those items. So that we know then what we're looking for so we're not jumping to, I think we can increase this, I think we can decrease this. It's really, because if we're going to get somebody to give us a recommendation, we want to know that their recommendations, they're focused on delivering a more optimized space, as opposed to tell us of these 6 items, which we should get rid of, right? It's really just, it's the bigger question.
Yeah.
How do we make the optimal space? So I feel from a project perspective that a step is drafting that RFP and those requirements, and then we can talk about this, but it's for all of it that we're all agreeing on what those priorities are. So I'm not sure how that.
I would like to get moving on this. Do you think we could have a draft RFP for the next board meeting?
With all of the I started to do some of the policies. I am away. Yeah, because our May meeting, we'll be doing policy review. It might not be as extensive as the last time, just because.
We did a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
And at first, so in our annual, our policy for our multi-year agenda, it said for this year, human resources general. And so when I looked into it, actually a majority of our human resources policy fall under the CEO's responsibility. So it's just, I'd only have to bring one human resource policy to the board. In that policy, it states something along the lines of, you can bring the other ones to the board if there's any major changes or anything that directly impacts the CEO. There are a few I am making some major changes to, but anyway, where I'm going with this is it might not be as extensive as last year, but I am taking some time off at the beginning of May. So and with the MRFA stuff on the 14th, it might be tight.
Well, and I wouldn't mind, maybe you and I could do like draft 1 before I go. And then, maybe run it by Joanne
Understanding it's the draft.
as you're planning for the May meeting. And yeah, I just feel to me, this is more than just a space utilization study. This is sort of our plan B, right? Like when we go to council at some point and say, we want an expansion and this is why we want it. I want to be able to say we've maxed out all of our space. And if we try to wait for an expansion or the MRFA, we're going to still be in the same situation. And we've got space that is underutilized here. And we've got a lot of needs and people love the library. So, you could put a meeting room at the back.
Have we done a needs analysis?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that one study we had?
Yeah, and then it was updated in 2022, and I'm supposed to update it again.
Okay.
I was given direction from the board to do that.
I would wait until.
Yeah. The other thing too, when I talked to Phil about it recently, the manager of fleet and facilities, that's when he had told me, oh, we're actually doing new building condition assessments this year. That's how that came up. And so there really was nothing for me to update.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, at least.
But the 2022 one was pretty thorough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would certainly be input to a consultant that we would hire. And I just feel that is something that we have control. We're gonna talk about the finances. We have funds to fund a study. And we have funds even to do some renos if they're, reasonable, that we could tap into. We'll look at those different accounts. We have several accounts.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway,
The gap analysis too, I believe, was done in-house. So I don't know if at any point that was actually used in a presentation to council or how it was received by council, but to have a consultant to also support that work, I think probably would
Yeah.
make it have a little
Yeah.
more credibility.
yeah, and it doesn't mean we can't still get and advocate for an expansion on our property for a multi-use space where we have a library. This is just.
So you're trying to do sort of short-term, middle-term,
Yeah.
and long-term.
Yeah.
plans, Right,
Yeah.
and then that would be our short-term.
Yes. Yeah, and it's,
Yeah,
in case we got stalled,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, at least we'd be, wouldn't it be wonderful to have another meeting room space?
yeah. Well, we are still tracking how many times we have to decline
Great.
room
That's good.
booking, so we're still tracking all that information. But I have definitely noticed within the last 2 months, I've had to step in multiple times with community partners who are upset.
Oh, wow.
So that wasn't really happening much
You have
last
red
year.
letter to council?
Well, there are some of our partners where I have actually asked, should we have to go back? Will we use support? And yes. I
Yeah,
get
that's
it.
good, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whether that'll be an ongoing issue this year, I'm not sure, but I've definitely over the last 2 months
It's good,
noticed. Yeah,
that's good, that's not good.
yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
but I mean, even that, I'm just throwing it out, but cause I've been back there a few more times ever since you pointed out that the big tree, which really does need to go. But
Just for the drops leaves all the time.
Yeah.
For the
Oh,
chickens or.
But, I was so pleased to see all those magazines there that I stood there for like 15 minutes, but then I was thinking after, wait a minute, you could just put them all on a big screen. They're all like digital now. And like you could save all that space. So I mean,
Some
there's
just like physical
okay,
magazines.
maybe that's not the right one, but there are opportunities and we may need to
Well,
purge
a
a
lot
little bit.
also depends on what we're gonna do with the story tower, right, too, cause accessibility was an issue and.
Yeah.
With the windows.
Well, that might be more the plan, the midterm, like the expansion redo. I don't know. Maybe that could be done too. I don't know.
So can we say, I think I agree with you. I think that having a draft, regardless of what stage, but for the next meeting, let's have a
Yeah.
draft. Even if it's, I'm gonna have these sections and here's how we're
Yeah.
approaching it.
Yeah,
I think, just to keep it moving, if that's
Yeah.
like literally wherever you're at.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Julia's
yeah.
gonna step in to help.
I know how to write it. Well, I'm not gonna write an RFP.
I can
But-
get a template.
Yeah,
from
yeah, but
Catherine.
I
We
could
can-
give some chunks. I'd be happy to. So why don't we talk about this, next week?
Okay, do we want a motion to direct the CEO?
Yeah, to
Okay,
draft.
Franz, I'm gonna type something in. I just don't want him to, cause this might take a second, okay, so. That. This board direct, I'm just drafting a motion, McKinley, the library CEO. To draft an RFP. Outlining,
No, an RFP to undertake a space utilization study, to maximize.
Existing space.
That's what the study is, the space, existing space, yes, good point.
It's a bit,
and this is just specifically for Ellie Shore, we're
Yeah.
not. To maximize, okay, wait, to undertake a space utilization study of the Ellie Shore Memorial Library. To maximize,
maybe it's just stop space utilization of Ellie Shore Memorial Library.
And then the RFP will specify it's to maximize existing space.
Yeah,
Okay.
period.
Yeah, is that clear?
Yeah.
Now, does that,
is there anything
Raise any
specifically you want to include in the motion for what should be included in the RFP?
maximizing existing space.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think you need all that. It's just.
Well, we
Okay.
could say to undertake a study.
And recommendations,
Study with recommendations.
with recommendations.
With recommendations.
For, yeah, recommendations, yeah, okay.
That's kind of clunky, but
Do we need a timeline here?
no, it's
No.
just to draft an RFP,
Draft an RFP to undertake space utilization study to maximize existing space, that's what we had.
Yeah.
And then just leave it at that.
how about get rid of space up above to undertake a utilization study?
No, just space utilization, in this space,
But we are
Space
focused on
utilization.
space.
Yeah, you're right.
it's fine. Yeah,
Oh, do you want to say while we continue to plan for an expansion?
I don't think you need that in this motion.
Okay, you
No,
think it's okay?
Yeah,
I almost feel like we don't need this part.
I think it's important. I
Yeah?
think it's
People
important
might
because
misread,
yeah,
yeah.
it's,
What does that mean? They're gonna tear it down?
it's a good point about um, short-term, long-term.
so do we want just to say with recommendations on how to maximize existing space?
Yes,
Yeah, I like that.
yes, perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do too.
Yeah.
You're good.
But we have, I think, Joanne, we have enough elsewhere.
It's
This is a one-off and that's
This
what we're
is,
doing.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you even mentioned that there's like book racks that are less bulky.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean,
A lot of
so
our
many
furniture
options.
is very bulky because it's from 1995.
yeah,
Oh, geez, got a good wear of it.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, okay, well, we're gonna move on to finance shortly and you'll
Good,
see
good.
that there is some, we do have some dollars. Okay, so may I have a mover? Chris, seconded by Carol,
Carol, there.
all in favor? Okay, carried. All right. Should we take a quick break now, or do you want to try to power through one or two more items?
I'm good, sorry.
Okay, let's power through. The protocol for receiving staff report. So I thought that there was a really nice write-up, thank you, Jen and Hans, that captured in the minutes exactly the confusion that we have. Can you find it? Here, okay, in the minutes, page 3. So we wanted to discuss what all members are present, so really that was code for Lori. Because she's, and, you know, our confusion is, how do we manage reports that are released publicly before a meeting, but revised during the meeting? And the second piece was the process of accepting reports as information and whether they should be distinguished from reports to be approved. Like, I even wonder, why do we even need to receive them as information if they're on the agenda? So there's a bit of confusion. So Lori's not here, so we put this off till May? Okay.
Receipt of information is just a point of, receipt of information is a point of procedure.
Is a what?
It's a point of procedure. It's part of the procedural,
Mhm.
the procedural bylaw, like any kind of active or any kind of occurrence of a meeting and following proper procedure, parliamentary procedure is that you receive a report, whether it's verbal or in writing. If there's no action to take on it, you're required to receive it for information. Just to hopefully paint.
But if it is, if you know it's on the agenda for for discussion and action, do we still need to receive it?
Yes.
Okay, so we
This is
received
being presented.
everything. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
But
not
the
trying to
piece
sound like
about,
Mr. Bossy Pants here. Sorry, I didn't mean it to sound that way. I'm just
no, it's good.
just procedurally. That's
Okay,
how it goes.
so we really don't need to, that second point in our minutes then from last time, you kind of just answered that, but the first part is, and I don't know if we have, no, we haven't really gotten any staff reports yet, so we should watch and see whether there's changes to some of those staff reports.
Well, and Councillor McKinley, with a council meeting, when a staff report is, as soon as it is included in the public agenda package, is the understanding that it is final. So even if
There-
there's a typo or whatever else, the report itself that's in the agenda package, is it final?
Yes. So as it goes, there again, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record as the voice on the voice on the screen, but as a point of procedure, is that any revisions are captured in the minutes. So you're
But then the
noting.
staff report itself isn't revised and republished.
That's right. You're not revising and republishing anything. You're gonna note that there was an error in whatever paragraph or whatever the case may be, or say, because in circumstances with some staff reports, staff will come forward at the meeting and say, I already saw on page 17 in the third paragraph, I have the wrong numbers. Okay, right, and then it's noted there on the record that there is an error, and it's to be noted that it's incorrect. I hope that helps.
Yeah, Sean, this is very
Yes.
helpful. Has there ever been an example where something was out in the public that was then floating around that was incorrect? Like, has there been any sort of contentious things or potentially things that could be used because they're public that then get changed and we had to sort of play catch up?
Could you be a little more specific?
Okay, let's say for an example, a number was wrong in the staff report.
Okay.
Some important number was wrong, but then it was noted in the minutes that the number should have been X. Now you've got the staff report floating out there that has a wrong number in it.
Yeah, has
How do
anybody
you
ever
reconcile
come
that?
back and said, look at you idiots?
Well,
Or,
okay.
And there's like
So-
important number.
So to answer that is that in the odd occurrence that there is an egregious error in math or something has changed, say with a pricing for something, then there'll be, then staff will recognize it and then we'll receive what they presented it. We're going to receive what they've done. And then they'll come back with a follow-up report. And with the follow-up report is when they would make the,
Okay.
the adjustments to the necessary adjustments. I hope that answers that too.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So
Yeah.
it was you we needed, not Lori per se. So,
I
Shall
wouldn't
we
say
just-
that.
no, you're very good. You bring another lens. Should we maybe just go through a few staff reports and see how we handle any corrections or
Yeah.
clarifications?
Yeah,
Because I've just heard that if there was something that we thought was significant, you could fix it and bring it back.
But I would
The
need
follow-up report.
a motion
Yeah.
of the board directing the CEO to bring a follow-up report
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
next.
Correct.
So it would be an adjustment or fix or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
okay, so that just means, I'm looking at you, Carol, that if you find wording you don't like, it might, we'll just stop and say, is this significant enough for
Yeah.
Jen to redo it or not?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we shouldn't be wordsmithing
No,
someone
but-
else's report.
yeah, but
But
it's,
I agree with an error, then
Yeah.
that's different.
yeah,
And I mean, most of the things I commented on wasn't wordsmithing, it was something that was.
Yeah, I'm not questioning.
Interpreted
your
incorrectly
comments, but-
or differently than what was initially intended.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That sounds like a good path forward.
Okay, so did you capture, what did we agree we're gonna do? Did
Just
we make-
moving forward, if there's a major change that needs to be made, the board will pass a motion to direct the library CEO to bring a follow-up report with the corrections.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, now we'll go to your report, 2024 annual report. And I did have a question.
Okay, oh, there we go. My computer was frozen for a second.
I would suggest the type was probably not a major enough
No,
error that we wouldn't have it come back.
But to capture it in the minutes would be good,
Yeah.
especially too, because once this report's finalized, I do submit to council for a delegation, and then obviously we do a little bit of print if people want a print copy, but
So in that case, this one could be changed and yeah, without a big to-do, because it's something that is going to continue on. So, I thought that was a very well done report. I love all the pictures.
yeah, I liked it too.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos.
I do have to say that Natasha, that I had something ready, and I did this to her last year. I did it again too. And last year I said, oh, I won't do that. I'll give you so much more time. But it was basically just, this is what I've done. Can you make it look better? Boom. And she worked the magic, like, and I was having a hard time. I wanted to incorporate more photos, but formatting wise, I just couldn't quite figure it out. But yeah, all I wanted to say was, Natasha was very helpful again, just with making things look, a lot
Thank you,
better.
Natasha. I just had a question on the, where is it? Oh. Oh, under empowering services.
Yeah.
The gallery's February salon show
Mhm.
featured over 200 pieces of artwork.
Mhm.
Why was that one called out and not all the other ones?
Because the February show is different.
Oh,
So a salon, the salon show, it's like the style of the show where it's floor to ceiling, full of artwork.
okay.
And so unlike all of the other shows that are, it'll be sometimes maybe 1 to 3 artists pending the submissions. And if we can pair people up, the February show is open to everyone. So any local artist can submit, they pay $10. I think you can submit up to 3 to 5 pieces. I think it's 3. I don't know, Franz, if you want to correct me, but it's the show that basically, yeah, it's different. More people can participate. More artwork is displayed. We tend to get a lot
Okay.
more sales too. But I think this year too, even just mentioning, like it was just more. There were more
Yeah.
people that participated, which was great.
Okay,
Um,
okay. Did anybody else have any other comments other than it's beautiful?
Yeah.
You're taking it to the council?
Yes, once it's approved by the board, I'll submit a delegation to council and I'll present it to council. Pending how much time I have, it depends on when I get on an agenda. I might actually convert it into slides and then just attach the official report. But if I don't know, again, if I don't have enough time, then last year I didn't, for instance, so I just had this as visuals and then I prepared my speaking notes. I wouldn't read directly what's on
No.
the report, and I have an idea of sort of how I want to frame the presentation too. Like I think the year of collaboration is something that whole word, and just really showing how well we're working together with the town would really be my focus for the council presentation, but also maybe even some of the Volt stuff or even IDEA and the things that we're actually championing. That sort of thing is where my mind's going for the council presentation.
And your goal is to do it before the May?
Ideally, I think it
I
would
don't
make
know.
sense to have it done before
The MRFA?
the MRFA, whether it's before the, I don't know if I can get on an
Yeah.
agenda before the 14th, but even if I could get it on a council agenda before the official decision is made,
Yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
I do talk, like, there are some of our Volt stats in this report, so I
Yeah.
can also really highlight that. And then the conclusion, I think, would be, you know, obviously, if we want to maintain these incredible service levels, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
this is what we need to do.
yeah.
So I had a question on, community hubs, what we heard from the community.
Mhm.
You have the quote, incredible that you made letters consent happen for families, Ashley. Then the next quote is, Ashley is a phenomenal resource. That's not the same Ashley.
No.
Okay, 'cause I found that confusing.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
True, yeah.
I could add in, staff member Ashley or.
Yes, yeah, or something. It's just because it was just Ashley and Ashley.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, and I had to go back and think, no, Ashley's got to work at the library. That's
Yeah.
what Ashley they're talking about. Yeah,
It's actually Ashley on the Wired Wednesdays. That's the.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
That was my only little. Now, so sort of for future reports, have you ever thought, but like this is all really good news.
mhm.
Have you ever thought of putting a challenges section in at all? Or is that something we want? Because I know this is public. But would we want to say, you know, we had some challenges with space because we had to decline, you know, we are so popular. We had to
Yeah.
decline 15% of the requests that came in because we have space constraints or something.
Yeah, I've never included that in the report itself. Like when I think of the annual report, it's really like this good PR.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
But I think that would be something I should definitely include in the presentation to.
Yes, okay, that's
Yeah.
good, that's good.
Yeah, I even thought about too, like when I have all these statistics about all the rooms that we've had to decline. You know, I'm like, where am I gonna put this information? I don't wanna put it directly in this report, but I think it would be worth mentioning
Right, because we don't want to
to
paint
council.
a really positive picture and then turn around and say,
We need more space
but we need more space.
and
Yeah.
more money.
Yeah, so that would be an absolute, you know, you can say, although we really service the community, we could have done much more.
Yeah.
Because we had to decline these percentage of requests or something like that. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good in the presentation.
I wonder, sorry.
No, I'm done.
I did have a question at the very end that by the numbers.
Yep.
Where we have 515 new memberships. I think it's important to put the number of cards and as we, like, actually how many people in total are card holders. So
Okay.
if you, because without the new, it's there's no
Well,
perspective. So I'm not sure how, but I think the important thing is we were doing the data before was that we're over 50% of the population have a card is a really big number. It's impactful because even if we said, however, I can't remember whatever thousands that is that has a card, if maybe it is the, 50% and growing have
Yeah,
are card
okay.
holders. Because that's important to everybody that over half the population actually have cards to the library. It's not like because you kind of go, that's really great for the 10% of the population that use the library. It's like, no, it's 50%.
It's pretty significant.
It is significant.
Well, and
And compared to the
500 new
libraries.
is pretty big number.
It
When you
is a
think
big
of the
number.
total population in town.
Yeah,
yeah, the
Yeah.
number will flux.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea of highlighting the percentage of the population. I'm always hesitant to put the actual number. Like, obviously, if someone were to ask, we can tell them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the population number changes all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and so does like the number of memberships too, because you have people whose memberships expire, they
Yes.
move.
some-
It's not like if the number goes down, people are leaving because they hate the library. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many different factors.
I think if there's a way to capture, and maybe
Yeah.
it's just the percent
I like that. Okay.
And it
growing.
may not mean changing your annual report. It could be what you present to council.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so, should we have a motion then? Moved by, to approve the annual report with,
As amended?
as amended? You amended it slightly, right?
Yes, I have to add clarity on, actually, yeah.
Okay, so can I have Joanne and seconded by Chris, all in favor? Approving the annual report, that's great, thank you. Finance report, okay.
Hmm.
So,
Could we take a little break?
yes, let's take a 10-minute,
Either that or.
5-minute break. All right, so we've got our Q1 and, I went through it with Jen yesterday. And there was a couple of qualifiers in that, because my point was I looked at it and said, aha, we are at 19% of our expenses after one quarter. That's, are we gonna be running under?
Mhm.
Again, because we did last year, and Jen clarified that there are some things that have not yet been posted that were part of Q1.
Yes, and one of them is the cost of living increase for all staff. So council approved 2.5%.
Mhm.
It's retroactive to January 1st, and that payroll batch hasn't been posted yet.
Yeah, so that'll bring us up. And she's quite sure, and this will be your second full year, that we're going to be close to our budget. The
I
other,
would say closer,
Yeah.
yeah, than we have in the past. We're back at a full staff complement, knock on wood.
Yeah.
They stay there the whole year.
Yeah, and then I did mention too that this year with our museum intern, because last year we didn't know that we were going to give it to someone internally. Like we had done a ton of interviews. And so because it went internal, we actually ended up saving on that salary too, in addition to some of the medical leaves and all the other things that had happened staffing wise, maternity leaves, that sort of thing. But this year, yeah, as of right now, we're at a full staff complement.
so I want to draw your attention to the current standing of accounts and funds. This one. And I also want to draw your attention, did you manage to bring any?
Oh, shoot. I know,
That's all right, I can pass this around, but basically, this is what we looked at last,
No, this was,
last meeting.
yeah.
But I just want to draw your attention before we look at all these little pots of money, is that we are pulling out money from our surplus reserve fund. We've been talking about that since we came on the board, but last year we didn't have to pull any. So mine was like, oh, maybe we won't have to this year, but we do.
And this is from the open reserve? This
No.
fund? No,
There's another reserve.
they're not listed here.
No,
No.
because I don't know why it isn't, but there's a surplus reserve fund held by the town of about 400, probably about 440,000.
Surplus reserve we're talking about.
maybe roughly.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we are using this surplus reserve that is not on this. So we'll talk about the rest of it in a minute. And I think that's a good thing. That surplus reserve was put there because we had some surplus and we, our agenda or our agreement with the town goes until 2028. And if these projections are correct, we will have used up that surplus reserve fund by the time we need to renegotiate our 6%, right?
Maybe not all of it, but a
Closer.
large, yeah, amount.
Is this in the minutes? There's more detail further in the agenda package?
No,
No,
I
that
just
was last-
pulled this up.
It was from our last package and I had
Okay.
said,
Okay.
I asked her to print me one and we were gonna make copies, but you do have it. We can go make copies now if you want, but.
Well, the one thing I'll say too, though, is when the draft budget for 2025 came to the board initially, and I think it was October, Information about the surplus reserve is in that agenda package and in the minutes. And that surplus reserve will only change once the audit is finalized and we know for sure what our surplus or deficit was.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know that exact number yet.
But if I look at, on this, you've taken the, all of the capital for this year is being funded from the reserve.
Yes,
And then we have varying amounts, that'll probably change for 26, 27, 28. But, it totals about 400,000, the way we're projecting it now. And I think, because we've got other money and we're gonna talk about this other money and how we're gonna use it, but I think,
what's really helpful, if I can jump
Yeah,
in just
yeah.
for a second, is definitely including that on here. So we know every pot of money that,
Yeah.
and if this is, and where we've earmarked it, what we've earmarked it for, even if you say it's estimate to be confirmed with audit, et cetera, that's fine. I think it's,
yeah,
But this is not the open reserve, this is.
No,
in addition to-
but the one thing I will say though about the surplus reserve fund is that is used to balance our budget.
yeah,
So whether or not we need to look at the number quarterly
But we've been
or only
underspent.
around when the budget is being deliberated.
what, okay, so we should have a budget. And I realize we're working towards it, but we should be able to afford our budget.
Mhm.
So we shouldn't have to be, no, good budgeting is not that you have a surplus that you just pull out when you need it. Good budgeting would be having a budget that you can afford. But
Yes.
for whatever reason, we ended up with this surplus. And for good reasons, we have, some places we're gonna need it over the next 4 years, but I would like to see in 2028 and on that we have a budget that we won't have a surplus, right?
Yes, ideally. We are lucky we get to keep our surplus. There
We are
are some
very
libraries
lucky.
that don't.
Yeah,
But the fact that we're using it for the next 3 years too is good for the community in the sense that it reduces the impact on the levy. But at the same time, if we were to have to go back to council and ask for more money, I highly doubt we would have got more money.
especially because we have a surplus sitting there.
But
yes.
if you keep having the surplus, then you're in absolutely no position to go back and ask.
Exactly.
about it.
Yes,
yeah, again,
Exactly.
yeah. Which I
So,
think also comes back to just understanding really clearly, and every time we're reporting, is this money has been earmarked for these following
Yeah.
costs. So that we
I think-
know, we're not pulling from something, or it doesn't look like, because it is in fact not a surplus. It is in fact part of our operating, it has become part of our operating budget. So
Yeah.
I just,
Right.
when they're sitting in big buckets, it's just too easy for someone to think, oh, you have this
Yeah.
lot of money.
So it's not really a surplus reserve, it's a balancing fund or something.
so Sean, what were you
Yes.
going to say?
Yeah, so the surplus discussion is simple that, municipal finance.
We just lost you.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Yeah,
Yeah, municipal finances dictates that a surplus is simply money you didn't use in last year's budget. So yes, I understand what everybody's saying, but yeah, technically, if it wasn't spent, then it gets declared surplus. Being declared surplus is better than deficit. Deficit's bad.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
So, and I agree, right? That, it's good that at least the team at finance were able to notify, because none of us knew about this particular bucket of money, but that's good, right? But I think one of the key parts of this is that, yes, we can sustain for the next 3 to 4 years, but more importantly would be that by that time, and we get a library expansion done, which might mean we need more staff, which is when we have really good gears to renegotiate the percentage from the budget, from the overall budget.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Absolutely.
especially in
Because
as we bombard them with good news repeatedly, because we are doing good things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's a service that can't be counted, right? There's so much that comes with it. So anyway, I hope that helps.
Thank you.
I think Sabrina had told us that moving ahead, like for the next 4 years or something, that there would be a shortfall based on staff
For
coming
wages.
back from maternity leaves, et cetera, and that's where she was hoping to utilize that surplus.
Yeah.
So I think it's being accounted for by the end of whatever budget year. But
Yeah, but that said, in her projections, we were supposed to be drawing last year 40,000 out of that surplus, and we didn't. Instead, we probably got another surplus that we've now dumped in. That's why I got excited thinking that maybe we weren't going to be using our surplus, but it looks like we really are. And
But this RSP that we're talking about, do we have that in our current budget or? is
well,
that-
no, so if we want to look at these current accounts, so we've got this open reserve. So, and there are no guidelines for the use of that. It's in a high interest savings account, which Jen checked and was 2.25%, which I was pleasantly surprised at. We've got this land reserve fund that is maturing. It's not a huge amount, and I think we asked you to look into it, but we're just gonna give you direction to.
Yeah, and I mean, I can share that what the current rates are. But I don't have like a full analysis on whether or not it should be reinvested into a different type of fund.
I think the GIC is,
It's doing well.
Hmm.
yeah, and we're not doing any new builds in the foreseeable future. So even though it's gonna be more like 3%, I don't know, do we just give you direction today to reinvest?
I would stay clear of equity.
Yeah, GICs are good, huh?
I have the information up to, if that's helpful, for the type of, oh, sorry, that's for the. One second. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen for a sec. I think it's. This one. Oh, good thing I wasn't. Okay, I thought I had this up.
So this is only for new builds.
Okay, sorry, I'm just gonna
So
share.
let's
So,
get a definition of what that, clarity on that.
So right now for the GIC, if you invest for 100 days, 2.25%, this is up to.
yeah,
But if we did 14 months, 3%.
I would think that would be reasonable.
It's gonna be very variable here, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, can we give Jen direction to do that?
yeah, I mean, I think that's,
I will,
can you
if
just-
I go to the bank, they'll want a motion.
Okay, so can I? have a
sorry, can you
motion?
just clarify just first? So literally the only thing when it says new builds, so it has to be a new building going up or an extension or
I believe so.
okay. I mean, I think 18 months makes sense because it'll take that long for us to get anything to
Yeah.
done. I just want
Yeah,
14.
or whatever.
Sorry,
the-
yeah, it was
Whatever
14.
that's for, sorry, yeah, okay. 14.
I don't think any walls will come down in 14 months.
No, I would, yeah, just clarify. So, yeah,
Okay,
so let's do a
so
motion.
the motion, the board directs the CEO
I'm just gonna type
Re-
this.
to reinvest the proceeds of the GIC that is maturing April 28th, 2025, into a 14-month GIC rate. It
They
looks
could
like
change
3,
by the
but yeah.
Yeah,
I
You
wouldn't
get
put a
that.
rate.
14 months.
So can I have a mover for that? Joanne, seconded by Carol.
Sorry, I just need to get the wording. This is for the,
Land reserve fund.
Just wanna see what it's called at the bank though, so it's,
No, I just.
Can you, do me a favor? Don't pull that up on the public site.
oh, I stopped sharing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's Yeah.
Sorry. It's like, I didn't know.
Yes.
Okay, the CO2, the proceeds of the GIC that is maturing on April 28th, 2025.
The proceeds? Wait,
No,
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
it is the proceeds, isn't it? Cause
it's the GIC and proceeds, I guess would be.
the
Why do you
fund,
say to reinvest the land reserve fund?
to reinvest the funds from the GIC that is maturing on April.
Mhm.
actually, yeah, because the bank won't know what the land reserve
Yeah.
Okay.
fund is. Okay, so I liked where you're going with that. Reinvest the funds from the GIC.
That is maturing.
That is maturing April 28th, 2025. Into a 14-month
GIC.
GIC
Uh,
at
TV.
the
At,
best
at
available.
the current rate or
at
at
the best
the rate of the day or something,
Yeah, at the,
rate of time investment.
what?
Right,
Rate at the time of reinvestment.
Oh, at the time.
sorry, wait, at the
Yeah.
rate at the time.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're not gonna keep you to, you have to find one for 3%, and if it drops down, it's too
Yeah.
bad, you gotta look.
Okay, so can I have I did get didn't I get a mover?
Yeah,
Okay,
I didn't record that.
okay, it was Joanne and Carol,
okay.
and all in favor?
John?
Thanks, Sean. Okay, so let's keep looking at this. So, there's a development charge money and
So,
that's,
sorry, before we leave the land reserve fund, for new builds, so that's a specification around what it can be spent on this money for new builds.
well, I think Jen you've been working with the deputy treasurer, right? And there's some work to be done on these accounts.
Either is, yeah, and that particular account though is held by the board, so I might
Okay.
have to do some digging from previous minutes to see if there's any.
If there's bylaws?
I highly doubt there's any bylaw governing
But there might
this,
be a reference in.
but there could be something in the minutes that specifies in greater detail
Okay.
what this can and cannot be used for.
Terms of
Uh,
reference.
Yeah,
You're not gonna get much for 18,000.
No, but there's more.
There- There'll be
But like
there'll
if
be a
that-
terms of reference for each one, right? Which is, specific.
Sorry, Sean,
specifies.
You're cutting out.
I say, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
There'll be like a terms of reference for each account being like what the funds are specified for or earmarked for. There'll be information somewhere to tell you exactly, like the note that says limited at the bottom one that says limited for TBM needs such as Blue Mountain Public Library IT, right? Like there'll be certain
there'll be
specifics.
wording.
certain
this is the
specifics
only
attached.
one, to my knowledge, the Library Legacy Reserve Fund. Like the fact that there's an actual bylaw that I could go back, like I've actually had to share information about that with the
Wait,
deputy treasurer. It's like
But-
that specific bylaw says exactly what you can spend that money on.
what bylaw?
Bylaw 2003-55.
Oh,
It's a
down-
town bylaw because it's a council held
Yeah,
reserve fund. But
this one is something held by the board that
Yes.
we decided what to do with it.
and it'll
Some
be in the
years ago.
minutes somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cause it would help buy modern furniture.
Oh, we'll use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it could sure contribute to
Oh, yeah,
modernizing furniture.
yeah.
It's the question of how they define new builds.
Yeah.
So we'll just, so, I mean, if it's just a board motion, we just probably need to see what the board was thinking when it did that, so
Yeah.
we're not but we can then decide what to do with it, so maybe, sometime over the next, little while, maybe not before May meeting, but we could
Okay.
find that. So then we have our development charges. I wasn't going to talk about those today. But we know that we wanna use them or lose them. The next one though, that is interesting, so we have the 72,000, it's a town line account. We think, Jen and I were talking that we could use that money for the utilization, yeah,
Yeah, I would fit in there nice.
yeah, yeah, feasibility study, space plans.
Yeah.
Balance available, yeah, so,
The one thing, sorry to interrupt, that I will say for that particular reserve account, because it is held by council, I would need a board motion and then it would have to go to council for a second level of approval to actually access the funds.
okay,
Just so
so,
you know.
all right, that's good to know. Then we have the CHD fundraising reserve, and I haven't talked about that one, but that's also town line, it looks like, are you using this?
So we haven't tapped into it yet. But, we have been contributing to it, so, I imagine by Q2, you'll see that number actually will increase, cause I think we raised just over $1,000 last year that we're going to put back into the fundraising reserve. For the films this year, though, the money that was included, in our operating budget was just, we had the money, so I didn't dip into the fundraising reserve for. the
Would
film
this
for this
be,
year.
could some of the, accessibility stuff could we use that money for any I know you're hoping town will fund some of it, but,
Yeah, some of the items are our.
I imagine if
At
it's,
CHD.
yeah, again, I don't, because they're in a bylaw listed, I don't really know what's governing that particular fund, but it looks like it's in a town account, but it looks like it's at the discretion of the CEO,
Mhm.
to access it. So if it's specific to CHD, then probably.
yeah. So this is a good problem to have, money in separate pots. And then there's this, limited one. But what I wanted to point out is at the very top, the 294, that has no guidelines. It's earning 2.25%, like no bylaws or anything. That's the board's responsibility. If we decide we wanna do some rejigging of maybe of the courtyard, of the space at the back there, of new racks, why wouldn't we use that money?
Something I wanted to talk to the deputy treasurer about in the future too is, does it make sense to have reserve funds
Yeah.
specific to each facility? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've got, so the legacy reserve fund is, when I was looking at that bylaw, and I actually should change some of the language, for what it can be used for, but it's in that bylaw, it has to be specific to Ellie Shore.
Yeah, I think to me, well, the fundraising reserve, if in fact people are donating money and they're donating
Right, it's
because, so
designated.
if I'm giving money because to CHD or Ellie Shore, I expect it to be going to that. So I
Right.
think
You're
feel like
holding
that's
it in
probably the
trust.
rule behind it. Yeah.
Sorry?
Sorry?
Trust. It's in trust to that
Yeah.
particular project.
Yeah.
It's like the Poppy account, right? You can only collect it and you can only give it to veterans, right?
Mhm.
So I'm right
That's
there
probably
with
what's,
Joanne.
that's probably what's guiding those.
Yeah,
but
no, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
clarity,
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but some rationalization, do we need a general reserve, non-growth related versus a open
Mhm,
reserve?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point.
but what I was pleased with was saying, okay, so we have this surplus reserve, which you are gonna include from here on in. that can carry us operationally over the next few years. And we've got this open reserve that should we, because we know if we do a utilization study, we're gonna come up with some options to, that are gonna cost money, and maybe that's what we use that for.
It's kind of nice having it in different pots, because if they're in a GIC, you don't have to withdraw the whole GIC if you don't need it.
Right,
So I understand why they put it into different pots and sometimes smaller pots. Because depending on the use of it, you don't have to collapse one big
Right.
thing.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, was there anything?
I did want to speak, just briefly about tariffs.
Yes,
So in the section D of this report concerns, I do mention tariffs because there were supposed to be counter tariffs on books, implemented at the beginning of this month. They haven't been implemented, so, we don't really know what's happening there, but we definitely know that should the tariffs be implemented, it'll have a pretty big impact on our book budget. A majority of the books we purchase, whether it's even our e-resources, it's American companies, or a majority of Canadian books, including our current Prime Minister's memoir, is actually,
wait. Who's got a memoir?
Barney.
Oh, Carney's got a memoir? Oh,
I don't know if it's out yet, but anyway, I use that example because a lot of Canadian books are actually published and distributed in the States, like back to Canada. So we do purchase local as much as we can from Jessica's Book Nook, but a majority of our purchases
well,
are,
and she'd get them from,
yeah, it's gonna have a really big impact on local booksellers too, should they be implemented. So at this point, we've just had preliminary conversations about, how to prioritize what we are purchasing with the resources that we do have. And then we also have been participating in larger advocacy, to just basically voice our concerns to the federal government, about these proposed counter tariffs. So we're doing what we can.
and what did you tell me our book budget is per year?
It's just over $60,000, but that does not include the subscriptions we pay through the Ontario Library Service for some of our e-resources.
So if that went up by 25%, that's a chunk. Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
So to be continued.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was amazed reading that stuff, that like the impact of the cost of paper. They're like, it's just so far reaching, I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, every element,
Yeah.
somewhere along the way, the glue.
yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so, do we need to approve the finance report?
I think it's
No,
just received.
We just received it, okay. But we did do that motion for the reinvestment of the GIC, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, strategic planning process and options. Jen?
Yep.
You had some interesting comments on this.
Yes, so, well, before I talk about, I'll just do a brief. So we have to start community consultation this year for our new strategic plan. And so with the previous strategic plan, there was sort of a working group appointed. I don't know if that's really the direction this board would like to take this time around with the strat plan. Or if consultation would just be left with staff, with obviously opportunities for the board to participate. But some of the other, so the Apple course that I'm taking right now, one of the assignments, we had to analyze 5 strategic plans. Obviously you talk about commonalities, whatever else, but then your final remarks are, well, what plan is the most strategic and why? And out of the 5 plans that I had analyzed, there was only one that actually had no timeline. So it was timeless. and it was Innisfil's. And there were, I think 2 out of the 5 were 4-year plans. That's the most traditional way to approach a library strategic plan, because your board cycle is 4 years. Then there were a couple of libraries who had 2-year strategic plans. So I think it's something worth talking about, whether or not the board, like, do you want to do a 4-year strategic plan? Do you want to do a 2-year strategic plan? I had argued in my assignment, though, that I felt that Innisfil's was actually the most strategic. And it's not that that they wouldn't have other measures for how they're actually achieving their goals. Like, it would be the same as, say, our annual report this year. You organize it with your strategic pillars, your goals, and you show directly how you're achieving those things annually.
Did it have a review date or anything in it?
No. But the language itself was timeless. So it's, I don't necessarily think they're never going to do a strategic plan again, but I think the idea of maybe thinking outside of the box, and not that we have to necessarily have this 4-year window. We don't have to do it that way is where I'm kind of going with it.
And we're gonna probably get some community feedback when we do a space utilization study too. Like, you get community feedback all the time.
Yeah, and it's to embark on a strategic planning process as comprehensive as we did. I mean, I wasn't here for it, but from what I've read the last time, do we need to do that every 4
It was
years?
pretty comprehensive.
Yes.
Looking at the consultation, like, I would argue that you don't need to do that.
Yeah, unless something changes in those 4 years and has a major
Yes.
impact on the community.
Like the last time it was the pandemic,
Yeah, so it
so,
was done during the pandemic.
yes.
Yeah.
Where this time around too, yeah, like how much will change? I don't know. And I'm not to say the consultation part isn't important by any means, but
I always thought it was weird that the outgoing board does a strategic plan that then is given to the incoming board. Now, I guess in a way, because we were all new, it was a relief to have something, but at the same time, it's kind of like,
You're
you're
marching
leaving.
on somebody else's orders.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, we're not knowledgeable enough coming in
the first
to
year.
really
Right.
carry it and know even.
What if it was more, to look at a readjustment of the plan or update of the
Update.
plan, rather than tossing the whole plan out and starting new? I don't think we need to do that, because I don't think that has changed that much. But maybe because it was done during the pandemic, we could do some focus consultation to see if we're still on the right track.
mhm. Mhm.
Well, and things too, like, again, when I'm doing this exercise, 5 plans, it's like your values. Your values across public libraries they're basically the exact same.
Yeah,
It's not individual really to your community, like that piece of it, or like your core values are consistent with the core values of librarianship.
Yeah.
Your mission and your vision statements, sure, the language could be updated. There's just the one thing about Innisfil's too that I thought was appealing, is it wasn't laid out as a traditional plan either, where you have your mission and vision.
Yeah.
Like, it was just very much using action-oriented language. It was pretty, like, appealing. I don't know, it was different. It was very
Maybe we should
different.
take a look at it.
yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to see it, because,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the strategic plans, it's the same process for the 40 years that I've been doing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some real value in continuity. And essentially, you know, any organization, it's a 20-year plan. It's a 20-year vision. In 20 years, we want to be X.
Right,
And your strategic cycle, whatever it is, might be annual, might be every 4 years, is more of a review and an update, and make sure that you're doing a SWOT in terms of what's the current landscape. So for us, you know, AI is disrupting everything.
Yeah.
And where does that factor in? Does that change anything? But it's not those higher order directions, your values don't change, et cetera. So, I mean, for us, as we just, instead of just moving the ball on facility, it's like in 20 years, you know, and maybe that's something we talk about is
Right.
in 20 years, we would like to have another branch.
still-
Or whatever, but.
If there's still a world,
Yes.
sorry.
The world as we know it.
Yeah, anyway, but I think.
What was the plan before 2024? Was there a plan that was 4 years length? Like, has it been every 4 years, or was this something that came?
I think-
in consultation?
I don't know 100%. I don't want to say for sure that it was 4 years. Most libraries where I have worked, or like I've done a similar exercise I just did in Apple. We had to do something very similar in my master's, a little more extensive, but most are 4 years.
Because I would think that 4 years isn't enough time for a strategic plan.
I would agree.
I think they're usually like 5 to 10 years,
Mhm.
10 years mostly,
Yeah.
10 to 20.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at all the things that were identified to achieve, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to reevaluate, reassess, and see whether it's still valid to be up there for ongoing action. But I don't know that we need to rework everything.
I wouldn't want to start.
No, I wouldn't.
easily because of
No.
all this stuff is really there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine our pillars. They're excellent, you know? I mean,
So maybe it's just a confirmation with a few focus groups from the community to make sure that we're still on track and that they're still in support of these directions and nothing major has changed. And then it's, you know, staff and board and whatever reevaluating where we're at with these, and whether they should still be there.
If you were to do a survey, do you think we can not take on the survey?
Yeah, I wouldn't just want to do a survey. But the other thing that I was considering is, well, when is the town going to start consulting the community for their strategic plan? Our timelines didn't align.
Mhm.
oh, let's ask Sean.
You heard his name. When does the
I
next
was listening.
strategic planning period start?
Behind.
Sorry, what?
It's behind. So I think they're starting the planning process for it now. They're working.
And you're
on it.
hiring a consultant too, right? I think that's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
So I agree with Joanne though, right? It should be that, you know, wherever the first plan went, that it was the 20-year plan, and then your intervals of review and revision and maintaining your objectives. I think the town one like that got thrown out the window a long time ago. And they've just been going at it like it's a new strategic plan every time they do it, but it's not. It's the same idealisms, right? Same objectives, same values. But anyway, yes. So there's a consultant hired, or going to be hired to do that.
It seems like a lot of work to end up in the same place.
In the same place.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I always feel like there's a fine line too between following best practice. Like if you were to take a course on strategic planning, it'd be the same. Make sure you got to revisit your values and your mission and your
I
vision.
don't think it would be anymore. I think nobody's does that. That's what you're saying.
Well,
or Innisfil did.
well, because Innisfil was different
Yeah.
out of the five, but
Yeah.
even the course content and the things that I was learning in Apple it hasn't changed since, when did I graduate my master's? 2018. It was nothing really new in terms of how to approach a strategic plan. So like you have your best practices, but then there's a fine line between, well, do you want to be innovative and just experiment and do something different? I don't know.
I would argue that
But-
they are not necessarily best practices. It's just that's the way it's always been done,
Mhm.
strategic
Yeah.
planning. So nobody's come along and said, oh, here's a new methodology. It's still the same old SWOT analysis and values and,
Right.
yeah.
More
Sorry?
particularly, here's the strategic plan. Let's stick to the plan. Let's refer to the plan. I mean, just short of the library, like the library does that, obviously, like on a regular basis, on a monthly, weekly, daily basis.
Yeah,
I can't say the same for the other organizations.
I agree.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they
you are.
pretend, a lot of them pretend like the one that they had before just expired or burnt in a fire or ran away, but it's still there. You can still operate on
Yeah.
the same strategic plan that was there before, whatever it is. Anyway, that's my rant for
Yeah,
today.
it can become a bit of a make work project too, right? So,
Oh,
okay, so,
it's more than a make work project, Madam Chair. It's a make work spend taxpayer money project,
yeah.
Yeah,
but not the library one.
So could we bring this back to our June meeting when I'm back?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so this was a good discussion.
And I think it's a really great
And I
opportunity.
think we're all in agreement, we can be.
Yeah, because we know we need more space, so let's just let's put our energy and our funds to.
Yeah,
That's our final goal.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
For the report in June, do you want it to be a report that outlines different options for approaching the
Sure,
strategic plan, or one recommendation and you
No, a
can?
couple of
I think
options,
some
but
options.
yeah. But one of them could be just embedding the feedback from our community and our stakeholders more deliberately into all of the things you already do. Right? So instead of, like, you already get feedback.
Yeah.
So are we in a way already consulting? We are consulting all the
Yeah,
time.
it's sort of an ongoing.
Yeah,
There's definitely ongoing.
okay, so that will come back in June. Okay, great.
And then we can have a look at the Innisfil plan before June.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Wait, getting mixed up. Did we do
Yep.
approve the annual report? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we did.
I should have put that recommended motion directly
Under, yeah.
underneath. That is my mistake.
Okay, so moving on to the Empowering Services Community Builders Program update.
Okay.
This was that lovely thing we saw when we first got here that we couldn't understand.
The
Anyway,
community built, yes, yeah.
and it
yeah.
never got done, but now it is.
Yeah.
Now it has been done, and,
I think it was the January minutes, the board had requested an update on the program. We talked a little bit
Yeah.
about it, and I had mentioned that we really didn't get a lot of uptake from the
Mhm.
community. So this follow-up report is really, I had to have a follow-up conversation with our manager of community engagement who oversees community builders. And so essentially what happened in that discussion was we determined, like, it's not a ton of staff time is to oversee the program. It's been just over 6 months. There have been some absences and just various challenges just internally that we've been dealing with that could impact the program itself. So we're going to keep it going for another 6 months.
Yeah. Right.
And just continue to kind of experiment with the format. I think in the report, Mary outlines that at least in the last 6 months or so, it's become obvious that people are looking more so for like a single session rather than becoming sort of this regular volunteer that meets with people privately and whatever else. So we're going to sort of sit back and see if we can reimagine what the format could look like. But in the next 6 months, if there's really no uptake, we may decide to discontinue the program. But we're going to do a little more experimenting before we make that
I think the
decision.
concept was good, but people may not have the time to volunteer or contribute to it.
Yeah. We've talked about the Repair Cafe before too, in previous board meetings.
Yeah.
The program isn't the exact same, but it is very similar. So
how does that work? People go in and, like, I'm a electrician and you're a gardener, and we go into the church.
yeah, I think they set up a table and then people come with
So their expertise.
I think they know what to expect though, like, I've never actually been to the Repair Cafe, I don't know if
I
anyone.
should know, but I've always.
I always think
thought-
it's like, I don't have
I'd love
anything to
to-
repair,
well-
but if it's actually beyond that, I literally was like, my vacuum's fine. I don't know. And only because there was somebody in our neighborhood who was, it's like Joe's Repair, and he would just do those, like, the little things that break down and take them in when nobody in your household can
Oh,
fix
that's
something.
nice to have.
That's literally what I thought it was. I had no idea that it was beyond actually repairing things. Interesting.
I think it's like
Neither.
minor repairs. McKinley, have you been to a Repair Cafe?
I have not. I've only heard good things. It has been a wonderful thing for people that want to try their hand at fixing things and keeping things out of the landfill. It's a great program.
Yeah,
And I actually, my memory is better right now. Mary explained that the Repair Cafe actually did take place here. I think Emma had worked with the same group before they moved to the church, but I think a lot of the people that participate actually go to the church, so it does make more sense for it to take place there. And then in the report, it's also noted too that the concept of community builders, I guess at the time, was talked about before the Repair Cafe actually existed. And so by the time we launched the program for the second time, the Repair Cafe has since exploded into
Right.
a really big success. So,
If I can suggest though, there's, this is a good report, but I don't think it gives us deeper insight into actually what are people looking for. So I think what would be helpful is, so people who expressed interested prefer to share their skills. Really curious to know what skills people are offering. And then on the individual side, what are they looking for? Because that can also inform programming.
Yeah.
So while it's not the builder, I think that might be just a piece for next year for planning. I'm just like, oh, what are people stepping forward with? And I think really importantly is, what are people looking for? What skills are they looking for? Is that a program or something that the library can offer in general?
and that could be incorporated into some of our strategic planning, like a survey of sorts, some sort of question that could inform this, but also,
Just, I mean, if even just also collecting what's already
Yeah.
been put forward, just, it's good information to know, just the more
Okay.
detail.
okay.
It's good to know.
Okay.
We try things, we learn.
And then your service, the problem with printing double-sided is things get.
Oh, I know.
Mixed up. But, maybe we didn't print that, I just looked at it online. Your, service update. I did have a question about the, CHD Facebook. It seems like they really dropped.
yeah, I noticed that too. And, this is the first time I've done like a really closer analysis of the, I guess, platforms that we use. And we've talked many times about whether or not we should just merge the accounts. And I think the museum's perspective is they have a very niche audience. And so they're afraid that some of the content would get lost in everything else that we're posting on Ellie Shore's page. But at the same time, we do end up sharing the exact same.
Is it like extra, is it double work? Is it rework? I hate rework.
I think it's more so we're just like working in silos.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think there's a lost opportunity for if they do, I understand the concern, but there's also ways to address that, but
yeah,
the lost opportunity for people who are on the Ellie Shore, the larger audience on Ellie Shore, to know what's going on CHD.
yeah.
So while you do share, I think it does, it makes more sense to actually combine them.
Well, and we do have we share an Instagram account. We don't have.
Yeah.
So for some reason, Facebook has remained. That was one of the first things I visited sort of when I started, but I didn't want
Yeah.
to make a decision.
No,
like that
and you
right
don't,
away.
it's not a hill you need to, you're not short of things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't know, was it because they were closed? Like what is the time frame of that? Oh, that's last month.
Mhm.
Oh, I was thinking this was a year. So it could just be a one-off.
It could be, yeah, these stats are just comparing the current or March with February.
Yeah.
We see a trend. Well, we've got a
Yeah.
couple more months to see.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, I thought your report was.
Do you want to see statistics like that?
Well,
Yeah.
we do, but we're back. to-
Yeah, I mean, I think,
I
I think
don't-
what's most important is where things have come up or where there's a question. So this is a perfect conversation about, you know, we have two, are we splitting audiences? Are we optimizing where we are? I think that's fine. I think, yeah, I would say this kind of thing, like on a quarterly basis. I don't know that we need to know monthly.
Okay,
That's
Yeah.
my personal
I agree
perspective.
with you, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
that's great for me, yeah.
Yeah, I think if something comes up and there's all of a sudden there's some spike somewhere and you guys have been talking about it, then to
Yeah.
let us know, but other than that.
Do you
Yeah.
want to see the board meeting insights, the YouTube views monthly? No, okay,
No.
I think both people.
okay. The other insight, I guess, too, that was noted, just because we're on social media right now, is we know 100% people engage the most with our posts that have photos of real people.
Mhm.
So with CHD, anytime it's like a historical photograph, woo, like it blows up. People love that stuff. If it's a staff member,
Yeah.
oh, they love that.
Yeah.
So we know what the community is looking for, and I think we're actually doing a pretty good job. And even with the annual report, it was easy to find photos because our staff do a really good job at capturing real moments.
Yeah.
We don't use stock photos really for anything
Good.
because we don't need to.
Great, don't need to.
I think the photos add a lot and to the annual report really makes it more interesting.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Colorful.
Yeah,
And you're right, people look for people they know.
Or mine.
well,
Or
even Ken
themselves.
Haig's
Yeah.
post about his retirement,
So great.
like the amount of engagement. Oh, there were more photos. There was a picture of
Yeah.
Ken doing story time back in the day. It just didn't fit when I was like formatting everything, but people loved those older photos, and obviously they love Ken.
Okay, I don't think we have any other business.
Sorry, I have a
Round
question.
table.
I just,
Oh.
if I could just touch on, financial opportunities, because we like financial opportunities.
Where are you
This is page 5
of Jen's
of Jen's
report?
report. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, just before we move on.
Okay,
Love that, manager of community engagement participated, in the webinars, et cetera, on, fundraising. I'm assuming that she'll be leading fundraising or some of these initiatives and.
That's
leveraging this.
definitely within, the scope of the role.
Yeah, yeah. So I would love to see, I guess, what the plan is
Okay.
for fundraising. So what, where's she gonna go? I'm assuming we have some goals, et cetera. So, if we could, maybe, follow up for the next.
ask for a
meeting,
plan.
Ask for a plan, just that we'd like to see the
Okay.
fundraising plan, for the next meeting.
So just a matter of, style. You have Mary's last meeting?
Dodge.
Yeah, in March, Mary,
Oh, I
manager of
see.
community
Oh.
engagement.
Would you even put Mary or would you just leave it manager of community engagement?
I think at a board meeting last year, the board wanted me to include people's names. I think I took it out in one report and then people noticed.
Oh,
I can change that though. Like,
No, but I think if you're gonna put the name, you should put the full,
The full name, that's the part.
Mary Dodge, comma. You're hesitant?
I'm only hesitant too, just because of some of the privacy stuff. Remember when we took meet the team page down, like, do you put
And
someone's
you can put the
full,
name at all.
don't put it at all.
Yeah.
That's your
I
concern.
think that's fair.
Where I was,
Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah.
Okay. I think I put
okay,
Ashley's
here we've
name
got a
in
little
privacy.
test. This report is already out there.
That is true.
So is this,
I don't feel like I don't feel like we need to, well, we can't pull it back. I don't feel Jen needs to bring back her report.
No.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
Maybe just going forward.
Going forward.
Use titles, not
Yeah,
names.
yeah, going forward.
Okay.
But you're right, we don't need to.
Good test. I was just happy, excited. I like it when things fit together. Okay, in terms of the round table, we've talked about the tariffs. I'm particularly interested, Sean, in your, thoughts on this Collingwood and I guess Blue Mountains were getting strong mayor powers.
Mhm.
A lot of municipalities got strong mayor powers overnight.
So what does that mean for us?
Okay, so because that was 3 hours of my morning this morning. The end of the day is that the bandwidth for what strong mayor powers are yes, it's large, but it's the bandwidth is small. Like there's only certain criteria that it actually adheres to. And more importantly, the bigger lesson is that they can't, like this, the mayor can't just say, like if council votes, then the mayor can't just say no, smack the gavel and change the course. The mayor has to follow back up to council with their written submission, like their written letter or decree as to what their reasoning is for overturning or for changing the course, and only then council can they still have the ability to vote it down as long as if they have more than 2/3 of the vote. Then so it's not as scary as it sounds. Like, yes, it sounds a bit like there could be some magic wands waved all over the place, and I call it the Spider-Man effect, right? Great power comes great responsibility. So it is all relative, but at the end of the day, it's really, as long as it's all in accordance with what the provincial mandates are for building houses, that's really what it's for. It's to expedite the building of homes and infrastructure and all the things that kind of correlate with building of homes. So that's about as far as my brain can recall right now. It came really quick. It came really, really quickly. Like it was like overnight. But I'm open to questions.
Are they allowed to participate, overrule, interfere, govern staff? Town staff?
They have the strong mayor abilities give the mayor the ability to release or hire a CAO. They can also they can reorganize departments of staff, like not in the reorganize as in you're fired, I'm cleaning house. It's not like that. They can reprioritize staff, but really the only one they can fire is the CAO of the town. Okay, and there's one more thing there too. I'm just having
Isn't there budget stuff?
Yeah, they can convey the budget. But even then still, like a lot of it would have to be very carefully calculated and it'd have to be justified with this letter. There's something else too that they can do. I'm having a moment now, but yeah, it's not as scary as it sounds. I don't know why.
Why did that? I mean, maybe we don't need to get into it, but it just seemed like it got a lot of press when Aurelia just decided to. Like I was just reading that today.
Change the CEO.
The mayor of Aurelia, McIsaac, I believe his name is, right?
Yeah, he just literally.
Well, see, that's what makes me a bit worried because they're moving into administrative roles. as opposed to just the town council role. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I'm kind of glad to hear it's only the CAO, so in other words, they can't change our library CEO, for example.
They can't, that was also outlined too. They can't, there's no, there's no overruling, there's no overturning or changing of local boards, which would be us and the library board. They don't have that power. Like, that's not part of it. They can
Okay.
only change, they can change the structure of, it's only really to do with council. So they can change the structure of committees. Or if they have a committee of the whole structure, they can simply say, none of you are chairing, I'm the chair, right? Like, things like that. Or they can, that's like the administrative powers, like, as you've said, the administrative powers are big, but there's a narrow bandwidth for what they're allowed to really do. And I guess it all really started from some mayor of Chicago or something like that. I didn't even know that is where this came from, or mayor of Chicago or mayor of New York. I don't know, whatever.
It sounds like Trump.
But it's not the same. But it's not the same.
Okay.
It's not the same. But
And there's no
Yeah.
direct implications on the library.
no,
It's all
And-
specifically around housing development.
And the
Correct.
CAO, which I did think
Yes.
was a bit of an odd move for that guy to get it an overnight.
But you don't know
fire, so-
what had happened in the back room.
No, you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not at liberty to comment on that.
So
Given we're meeting our requirements anyway from the
Yeah.
housing, we have enough.
Well, and I think for the budget part, that was the part I was paying a lot of attention to. I think we're kind of safeguarded by our funding agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we don't even really participate in the town's budget process.
Mhm.
No.
And when is the agreement up again?
It was renewed last year, so it's a 3-year,
2028?
end of 2027.
It-
Wait.
You said 28, but I don't know whether you meant
24.
January.
I think it's every 4 years or 5 years.
I believe it's 3 years. It's 3 years.
3. Okay.
So it's end of
So we would-
27?
We would have, yes,
Okay,
yes,
End of 20, okay.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So the strong mayor thing, it's got its pluses and minuses, I guess. I don't know. And and anybody that, any mayor that uses it, as I said, they need to have reasoning for
Yeah.
their decision. And they can't just, well, it's highly recommended that they not just willy-nilly wave the magic wand and do whatever,
Like executive orders.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Let's get off that.
Yeah, all right, okay.
You have a good point there, that there is some administrative authority, but it is not wide-ranging executive orders, which actually factually are not that wide-ranging. Those executive orders are only supposed to be followed within certain criteria as well. But we won't go into that any deeper. But anyway, so yeah, so that's
Is there
that's
a
the kind of-
timeline, or like you're just given the power
Until it's taken
So-
away.
until it's taken away? Yeah, like how does that work? Do you
So-
know?
Oh,
Yeah, so as far as I understand it, they changed the municipal act for this law, or this power. But the only thing is that if a mayor was felt deeply enough that they did not want these vested powers, then they should have written a letter to withdraw from, like, they should have written the province a letter like 2 days ago or something. So basically everything, it was announced, like, that's why I called it overnight. It was announced without any forewarning, and the window to opt out, that's what it was, the opt out window closed very quickly too. So as far as we heard, there was maybe only definitely one mayor somewhere that opted out, but I don't know. I can't. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot of,
Thank
there's a
you.
lot of hesitancy from people. They think that maybe now their people won't want to run for council because they'll feel that what's the point, so on and so forth. But if everybody just takes a minute, takes a breath and reads the legislature, like reads the act, it's all right there. Like there's criteria that has to be met. It's not just wave the magic wand, but that's my perspective on it. I hope that
Okay,
helps.
great. Yeah,
No, very
thank you.
much so. Thank you.
So we have key messages to do, and I'm just wondering, we didn't talk about next steps for the action plan and the metrics and the financial
Right.
before we do the key messages. Do we want to talk? I don't think we want to go over it all today, what you
No.
did, but how should we approach
Getting the numbers,
getting
Like
like,
having the numbers. Is that part of the working group?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
so if we just,
so we need
can we
to,
have one working group that looks at
One.
the finances and it looks at the metrics?
I think that was part of the plan. Cause it was, you're needing money and if you're gonna have goals against your money. I think they all kind of blend.
Do they,
I
It's the
don't,
same
I
thing?
think
I thought they were
I
different.
think we should separate them.
okay,
Because if you're looking at how do you wanna be positioned strategically, financially, and you don't wanna be dependent on a surplus fund, that's a totally different discussion than the percentage increase of cartilage versus a goal or performance measure.
okay, so we could do
I
that.
don't think we-
I would like to wait until we have Q2 then before we meet to look at finances, because I think we'll have better idea of where we're at.
I would agree.
So we can maybe put that on the agenda for,
yeah, because nobody's gonna be here for me.
in July.
I'm here for me.
We meet in July.
Yeah, I think it's August that we don't meet, right?
Yeah.
August and just, I know,
Correct.
August and December, the way it stands now. but
Yeah.
it Doesn't have to. stay.
Yeah, so maybe we could put that, a financial, on the agenda.
like create a working group.
Yeah. It's probably just gonna be a meeting or two,
Mhm.
so I don't think we need to have terms of reference necessarily. We just need to go through all the dollars, and hopefully you'll have had a chance to talk to the deputy mayor about some of this by then.
Treasurer.
Okay, so that's for that, and then, so
Performance measure.
now we have a finalized action plan,
So the
and you've done some work.
so the reporting, I guess, deck was really with an eye to sort of a quarterly report. So what would be in a quarterly report? Happy to, I don't know if you want another working group or do we say?
A meeting?
A meeting, maybe just a meeting?
Yeah,
Maybe just a meeting.
Yeah,
But so, and then in that meeting, I would see the outcome would be 10% increase on last year's or something that gives us some
Yeah.
concrete numbers.
how well are we doing?
Yeah, but a feeling that those numbers are realistic and represent what we could actually deliver on.
Okay. So do you want to do that while I'm away? Please?
I'm not here either. That's the problem. I mean, if somebody else wants to take it and do that, I'm totally
No, you
happy
did
with
such a
that.
wonderful first
I
draft.
that's fine. So take it and, yeah, if you want to do that, because I'm gone and I can
When
meet.
are you gone?
Next
You're
week. I'm gone next Friday until May 12th.
oh, right.
So,
Well, you could do it after.
yeah, so that's the question. So,
This does not need to be done for the May meeting.
No,
No.
we could report back in June or the group.
Okay, so meet sometime either in the latter part of May or the first part of June for the June meeting.
okay. So we'll throw some dates around. Who wants to be part of that?
Well, don't you need somebody from the library?
Oh, Jen needs to be there.
Definitely, Jen.
I will be part of
Both
it, but
of
I
them.
won't lead it.
Okay, I will lead it. I'll send some, we'll sort out some dates and some options. Or do you want to be part of it?
I think you've got enough people.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
But I'm happy to, we'll bring after Q2, we'll worry about a date then, after we have Q2 results.
And so, okay, so we're meeting to come up with a format
Performance
for
measures.
performance
Yeah.
metrics, okay.
Our goals.
Aligned with the action plan that
Yeah.
we just approved.
Okay.
Okay,
Actually, so the bigger question for the group is, part of it was how often we do reporting, so, you know, I said it suggesting quarterly, but by the time we get to
Decided
these.
before quarterly, like this is not the first time this conversation has come.
Definitely, it's just getting to what are we gonna ask Jen to pull together for a quarterly report? And so if we say, if we're going to meet in June, then I think we have to say it's okay that we're literally only doing it. Is that semi-annual?
Yeah. Yeah.
2? Anyway, what period do we want to report on?
quarterly.
Quarterly? Okay, so first quarter, okay.
So in June, there may not be anything to report on because it's not the second quarter.
Yeah,
So she's only reporting then, pulling
On the
together, it's
first.
only on the first quarter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to be clear on,
Yeah.
we know what we're
But
expecting.
we would look
Okay.
at the trend and the numbers from last year in order to come up with the percentage that.
Yeah, for your performance numbers.
okay. Okay, clear as mud.
And I'm fine not being part of the strategic financial committee. I do not have a head for finances. I'll let somebody else who knows that stuff.
I'm okay with the finance. What did we say about a strategic plan? No, she's bringing back some ideas and options.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you
set
said
a
you're fine
process.
not to be part of it, we didn't set a meeting.
That
No,
was for
no.
the,
I'm just thinking way in the future.
Yeah,
I'm just.
you like metrics and lining up things.
Yeah.
You
Well, I do like
you
that.
can go at it. You can,
I do not have a head for finances.
okay. All right, key messages.
Action plan was approved.
Yay.
That's an accomplishment.
I think we should say something about the Little Free Library.
I do too. I'll write a blurb.
It's been successful.
Yeah, you know, it's been
Well,
almost a year and this is, yeah.
Do we want to say something about the board is, looking to conduct a study to ensure that we're using our space to our limited space to best meet community needs?
I like that, our limited
yeah,
space.
very like it too.
We should say the annual report
I was just gonna say, I think we're very
Yeah.
happy with the end.
and the link to it.
Shows the great things the library accomplished in
Yeah.
2024.
With our limited space.
Is that enough? Should we make a comment about the youth action? I mean, that's in your report, so,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I just think maybe we should highlight the youth action, climate action. Do you think like the fact that 50 young bright lights,
I could, yeah.
yeah.
And it's,
Oh,
town
right.
library collaboration.
How worried are you about the terrace?
I honestly don't know how to feel about it because I don't know what's going to happen.
But I think it's I think a lot of, I think what you're calling out is people don't think that a library would be impacted,
Yeah,
right? In
Well,
fact, I
they
remember
don't
seeing the
really have
post.
Any clue what all things are being
What all
impacted by the
things,
terrace.
right, so,
And so
Well,
this is something that can come home to roost with us.
mhm.
And that could impact, you know, you talked about number of books you can buy.
Yeah, maybe that we acknowledge, we appreciate or acknowledge that there is budget risk to,
Yep. And that's part of
to the
organization.
terrace.
Do we want to put that in our messaging?
Budget risk, or maybe impacts, maybe not worthless, I don't know.
I could maybe frame it too that we're participating in advocacy
That's a better part.
of sorts, just to, I don't know.
It's really an alert, so with any luck, it won't impact us. But if it does,
I think it's just too doomsy. Yeah.
So I think we just leave it.
Don't say anything?
I don't think we say anything.
only if it happens.
We've acknowledged it in the board, so we're not ignoring it, but I don't think we need to say anything publicly. Because these are our public messages.
I'm just saying, would we say something if it does happen?
Oh, yeah, if it
Yes.
does happen and it impacts.
The board
Absolutely,
has to plan or
Yeah.
planned
Yeah.
for,
Mhm.
But to speculate at this point in time when,
At this point,
It's
because it is just
fluid.
speculation, yeah.
yeah, I would not put it in the key messages.
okay,
Okay,
That's the point.
um. I could say something generic about Q1 finances were reviewed and we're on track for,
yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah. Okay,
If you want to say also, we're just to get the word out about extended hours for the CHD, starting whenever they're starting and we're pilots.
is that,
I'll talk to Alessia before,
Yeah,
she might say, no, don't
Not
put
yet,
that in
yeah.
there, not yet, but I'll make note of it.
yeah,
Just
Yeah.
wondered.
yeah. Well, if we don't know the exact date or time or whatever, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a piece of good news.
so may I have a motion for adjournment? Chris, Sean, you want to be on there? Yeah. All in favor?